Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 514. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
This is a DC Comics podcast. We get together and talk about the books we read this week. Coming up on this week's show, we have Absolute Wonder Woman issue 22, Absolute Superman 21, Detective Comics 1111, Action Comics 1100, Superman 40, The Flash 35, Green Lantern 37, The Peril of the Brutal Dark, and Ezra Cain Mystery issue 6. Plus, I've got a couple of Patreon books to talk about. I'll be talking about Gideon Falls and Adventures of the Outsiders. Neither of which I wrote down the issue numbers for, and I don't remember them. So I'll tell you when I'm talking about them what they are. So yes, that is what's coming up today. Plus, there will be some news because Comic-Con is happening right now. And there might even be more news by the time we're done recording, and if there is, we'll record it and I'll insert it back into the news segment. But if there's stuff that gets announced later today that we don't talk about, it just means we'll talk about it next week, because that's the way time works. We couldn't fit it in. So
far, my favorite thing is going like, okay, other company, announce something, because DC came to Comic-Con with like stuff to announce. Like big things. Not like huge, like changing the industry things, but really like as a week-to-week reader, a lot of things that came out yesterday in the news was like, this is good.
Yeah, I don't even know if I've got all of it. I mean, you may have seen some stuff that I didn't, but there's some news to talk about. And there's definitely another panel or two that I think is happening while we are recording. So there's there's very likely going to be some more headlines to bring up later. But we'll get into all that in a bit. And of course, we did not have an episode last week. We did warn you in advance, but Matt had to do something for the weekend. But because we have a week 5 this month, next week we would be taking off. But because we took last week off, next week we'll be doing all of last week's books, which for the most part doesn't really change that much because most of the books don't really connect to each other. That said, though, there is one casualty I noticed whilst reading Action Comics. Clearly something happened in Superman Unlimited last week that we've not read yet. So that's unfortunate, but hey, shit happens.
You know what? I was able to breeze right by it.
Yeah. I'm like,
it's fine.
Oh, Lois knows something that she did not know last time I read Superman Unlimited. All right, I guess that'll be something that last week's issue covered. We'll see about that next week. But hey, we'll get to that. But before we get to anything, I'll just say, Matt, how was your week, or your 2 weeks, I suppose, since it's been a couple weeks?
No, it was real good. So went out of town last week and went to the Jaws exhibit at the Academy Museum, which is now closed, which is why we had to go last week. So I got in there. Which I got a nice message from Tim being like, I saw your pictures. I guess I need to go. And I was like, buddy, you've had a year. you live in the area. You could have stopped me from going. I would have had a membership to go hang out with all my friends from Jaws. That was good. Haven't done much of anything else. It's been really hot. So I've just been like recuperating from, now that the vacation was a lot, right? Because we just went to some museums and hung out. But with the heat and the travel and the work schedule and everything else, it is just just sit in the house and not do much of anything unless you can help it, So, that's been me. Watch some movies. Nothing comes to mind. I'm seeing The Odyssey today when we finish recording because I missed it because we were out of town. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it's weird that you didn't get to that sharpish because you usually tend to get to opening weekends for most stuff.
Yeah, it was hard to with our travel schedule coming back. It was tough to make it fit because it is a 3-hour movie.
Yes,
which limits the show times and whatnot. And then also had a packed like local wrestling. I'm pretty involved with the local scene here, so there was back-to-back shows. They needed help with things. So, I went and lended a hand and got to enjoy that. So we made it. We're going to Dolby Theater because I heard here the local IMAX, which we have a legitimate 70 millimeter. It takes them a while to lock in the sound. And other than that, the tickets have been primarily not exactly sold out, but all the good seats have been sold well in advance. So I wasn't going to take the gamble of spending that kind of money. So we're seeing it in a Dolby Theater. So hopefully it works out. Today, And it's funny because it's one of those movies that I don't have to dodge exact spoilers for because it's a 3,000-year-old story, right? So,
yeah, everyone keeps saying that, but I didn't know the story of this before I watched it.
Really? Did you not study it in high school?
Nope, never came up once.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Yeah, no, we did a whole big, long unit in my 9th grade year, and that's actually, as I was explaining to my wife at breakfast, probably kicked off my interest in Greek mythology as it goes, which has really helped out reading Wonder Woman, right, as time has gone by. But yeah, like the broad strokes, I'm sure Nolan has some tricks up his sleeve and some, twists and turns of the actual story that'll be surprising. But, it hasn't been one that I see like praise for, and I feel like I have to dodge, and click away from whatever, or if someone's talking. I have had a friend that keeps asking me when I'm going because she wants to talk about it with somebody. And I was like, I will let you know when I'm going. Okay. So, which is good because I don't get that with a lot of movies anymore, right? It feels like there's that air and a buzz, and it feels like a monoculture kind of thing that hasn't felt like in a while. Everything's been very fractured in recent years, at least since the pandemic. So, but I'm excited. It's Nolan on the big screen. What's not to be excited for?
Yeah, I did think it was weird that John Leguizamo was playing his character from John Wick in the Odyssey. I thought that didn't really sync up very well.
Oh, that's great. So I'm assuming he warns people because they did something.
So also, I felt this is something I brought up in the review. If you want to check out my thoughts on the Odyssey, there's a 2.5-hour review of me and David just diving in.
I do love when you go almost length of the movie with your guys' reviews.
Some movies just warrant it. I mean, that didn't be Superman. Superman was almost 3 hours. That review. Yeah. That was a hefty one last year.
Very fair.
But no, I said that I felt weird that Anne Hathaway is playing the mother of Tom Holland in the movie because I'm like, she can't be that. She's not that old yet. She can't be. That's not. That's not a thing yet.
He's a little bit younger than my brother, and she's only a little bit older than me. So at most, I think it's like 12 or 13 years. So maybe for ancient Greece, maybe that's about.
I mean, I'm sure technically it's possible, but what I mean is that she's not. Like, we're not at that stage yet where she's playing the mother to 25-year-olds. That feels a bit weird.
Yeah. If it makes you feel any worse, he is 30.
Yeah. I figured he is, but I think he's playing younger in the movie, though, if I'm...
Okay.
I mean, it feels like he's always playing younger than he actually is now, ever since he actually aged out of the 18 that he technically was when he first started. But anyway...
but
yeah. So no. Obviously, the Odyssey was this week. I went to see that. I don't know. I've just been busy. I built my new computer last week, so I've been just tinkering around with that a lot. For the most part, that's what I was doing last Saturday instead of reading comics. I was just testing out the new computer a bunch because what else was I going to do?
Nice.
So yeah, that was fun. It went smoothly. There's always a worry that it'll just not turn on. It's like, oh god, what part is broken, or what's one thing did I not plug in correctly, or whatever. But it went well. So that's cool. But that's pretty much it. I haven't done anything too super exciting this past couple of weeks. I had to watch Shrek for a stream thing, which is 25 years old. If anyone wants to feel old themselves, that'll sink in. And honestly, watching it, because it's a movie from 2001, I'm watching it and I'm going, you know what? This CG does look very dated now. Obviously at the time it didn't, but you're like, oh, this definitely looks like the early days of a CG animated film in a way that I don't know if the early Pixar stuff has aged as poorly, but the Shrek did look a bit ropey in places where it was like, oh, this feels like a bad video game cutscene sometimes.
Yeah, so when Toy Story 5 came out, I saw a bunch of people going back and watching Toy Story 1.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where you didn't think about, right? But just the progression in the animation, making everything smoother and layered with the textures, it looks a lot more plasticky.
Yeah, flatter,
right.
lot just less detailed. Yeah.
Yeah. And and so, but the gap isn't as huge as you would think when it came to Pixar, because they helped develop the technology, right, with the render man and whatnot. So they were kind of ahead of the curve when it comes. I haven't got back and watched Shrek in forever, so I am curious to see how that. But it is funny how like traditional animation doesn't age like that. Like you can look at something and be like, oh yeah, the old Disney movie looks old, but if it gets a good restoration,
oh, it looks high quality still. Yeah,
it still comes through. So it's funny being at the cutting edge there of the technology, how it affected things later.
Yeah, I mean, it won't really matter from anything like, say, from 2010s onwards, because the technology had, like, matured enough that we were in a better place with it. But yeah, those early days when people were trying it out when it wasn't quite ready yet, or arguably was ready to an extent, but certainly, obviously, it feels of a different time, of a different era. So yeah, it's weird, but it is what it is. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
Shrek is just okay. It's fine. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just I mean, it's a mild hate crime to Scotland, honestly. But like other than that, it's
well, you can blame Mike Myers for that because he brought that voice. But I think it's modeled after his dad. So
yeah,
was his dad British or was his dad Scottish? I can't remember.
The accent's not amazing. Like it wavers quite a bit, frankly, but I mean, whatever. Technically, he's not supposed to be Scottish, but he's clearly trying to do a Scottish accent. So yeah.
Have you ever seen the clips from when Chris Farley, before he had passed away? Because originally supposed to be Chris Farley as Shrek, and he had done moderate amount of work on it, and they have his voice coming out, and it just feels wrong because it's just Chris Farley's voice coming out of Shrek. So I do feel like. However you feel being so close to that accent, I don't know if, it just feels right for Shrek at this point.
That's the thing, though. If it came out as Chris Farley's voice, then that's all anyone would ever have known. It wouldn't feel weird. Yeah. It's only weird because you've had 25 years of it being one thing. So, it's like try to imagine Eric Stoltz as Marty McFly. You just can't, no matter how hard you try.
It just feels wrong, right? We've all seen the clips.
Anyway, we can get into things. We got a decent number of books to talk about and some news to discuss. But we'll start off with the Kindle rankings, formerly known as the ComiXology Top 10. Matt's going to guess and try and see if he can find what the top 3 DC books are for the week.
All right, so I thought I'd already had it set to DC on League of Comic Geeks, but those are like the first big batch of them are just naturally DC at this point. So I'm going to guess the 2 Ultimate books. I'm going to say Wonder Woman and Superman.
The 2 Ultimate books?
Superman. Ultimate, oh my God. Absolute books. That was a big brain slip.
That was a wet fart of a thought.
That was. And then I'm going to take a gamble at Action Comics because it's one of those big keystone issues at 1100. So that might have been bringing in more purchases than regular.
Well, number 1 is Absolute Superman, which is a little surprising. Wow. I expect Absolute Wonder Woman to do better, but number 2 is Absolute Wonder Woman. So who's to say how close the margin is there? But number 3 is X-Men: The Hellfire Murder. Sure. Number 4, sadly, is Superman.
Okay.
Because Williamson.
I picked the wrong Superbook.
Yeah, and of course, because Action was a special issue with lots of stories in it, I still had to read some Williamson Superman this week, didn't I? Number 5 is Detective Comics. Number 6 is Void Rivals. Number 7 is Action Comics. Number 8 is Justice League Unlimited. 9 is Uncanny X-Men. And 10 is Something is Killing the Children. So that is the top 10. Pretty good showing for DC, all things considered. They had a solid 6 books there in that top 10. Outside of the top 10, the Dark Knights of Steel special Heir to the Sea, not Heart of the Sea, which is just a reprint of the backups from the first series, which is why obviously we didn't read it, because we read all those backups at the time. But that's what that is. It's basically just that collected into a one-shot. And then elsewhere, we got Green Lantern at 13, we got Flash at 16, Zatanna at 17, and is there anything else to mention? Oh yeah, the Superman Elseworld is down at 22. So there's that. And then where's Ezra Cain going to be at? Oh, it's not even in the top 20 or top 20. Was that 27? I think that's it. But I mean, it's a Vertigo book. It's the final issue. We got our ending, so it's not that big a deal one way or the other. Even though they could totally do sequels, but we'll talk about that once we get to the book.
Yeah.
But there you go. That is the Kindle rankings for the week. So moving into some news then, there's a variety of things to talk about. First up, this is a weird one actually, because once I read more of the article, it became clear that this is something that we won't be covering on the show, at least initially, because for some reason, they're doing the same thing they did with those DC Marvel crossovers. They're making it physical exclusive to participate in comic book stores. But for Batman Day this year, they are doing a one-shot called Batman of Two Worlds, issue 1, which is going to be the Absolute Batman and the regular Batman. However, if you read a bit closer, you actually see that it says they're not actually going to meet. There's just dueling stories in either universe that are kind of related, I guess.
Yeah, I would guess they're investigating something similar, and it's echoing across the Absolute and mainstream. And as far as I can tell, it's the same. It's the main creative teams. On Absolute, and so it's Fraction and Snyder together. Which, if you told me that 10 years ago, wouldn't make sense. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I saw the cover and the title. I was like, oh, that's neat. And I was like, oh, they're not actually going to meet. Okay, well, I guess I'd put expectations in check. And then it was like, also, it's physical only. It'll probably come to digital eventually, but the way it's worded, it sounds like they're saying, no, this is Batman Day only, and it's only in physical stores. And I'm like, well, okay, then I guess I just won't be reading it until later.
Yeah, and apparently it has a $3 price tag as well, which, as far as the rest of the comics, it's pretty cheap.
Yeah, that used to be normal.
That's next thing to free.
But it's now it feels like a bargain. So fair enough. So it feels like a big deal. It's a shame they're locking this up in this physical exclusive bullshit. Because frankly, a lot of us have moved on, and I'm not traveling to a city to go to a comic book shop to get one goddamn comic book issue when I don't even collect physical books anymore. Piss off. It's not happening.
All right, so I'll go to my shop and I'll buy it, and then we'll set up a call, and I'll just read it to you and show you the pictures.
Oh, very nice.
We're in class. Yeah.
Unless you've got a scanner, you could just literally scan it in for me.
Pete, I have a laptop. I don't even have a printer anymore. What makes you think I have a scanner? But yeah. I mean, I think that's cool that they're trying to keep physical stuff and people interested in going to the shops, which sucks for people like you that have moved on and are digital only. That said, I haven't been to the comic shop in about a month just because it is a pain to get to with, road work they've been doing for the last year. But I still go in and get my stuff. And it seems pretty healthy in there. As it seems, like the copies of things that they're getting seem to be in big numbers, and I don't think they'd be ordering that much if there wasn't the demand. So it feels like DC is at least trying to play nice that way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my thing is that I don't think it's going to convert anyone who's a digital reader to go physical. And I think the people who like physical are always going to stick to physical at this point. There was definitely a time where a lot of people switched because it became like a new, easier way of reading your comics, so people who were tempted by it did switch. But I think people who have stuck to physical this long are not going to suddenly change their minds. They like physical for a reason. So it's kind of, it's plateaued. It's reached this harmony of like, okay, comic book shops are doing just fine because there's this amount of people who want to still read their books physically, and then there's people who read them digitally, and the idea of trying to prop one up over the other just feels weird to me at this point. So anyway, whatever. So that's Batman of Two Worlds. Cool title, but we'll see when we can finally get around to that. Throwback
to the first, merging of the Gold and Silver Ages with the Flash of Two Worlds.
Yep. That's obviously what it's referencing back to. And then we have some new books announced yesterday at Comic-Con. Well, I say new. I mean, I think at least two of these were kind of known titles from the last time we did a panel at some kind of Comic-Con. But we do have creative teams now, and we have a more of a sense of what these books are going to be. So we have got a Vixen book, we've got a Static book, and then probably the big one is Shadow of the Bat, which not only did we know that was coming as kind of the new ongoing Batman book, at least I think it's an ongoing Batman book, we have a creative team for it. So, and this is kind of a big creative team because it's Dennis Camp and Javier Rodriguez. That's right, the team from Absolute Martian Manhunter is doing a Batman book, and that is coming later this year. So that's pretty cool.
Very exciting. And they've cleaned up with the Eisners this year too. That creative team.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
I think Fernandez won best artist, I think. And then I think Dennis Camp had won. I forget for what the title was, but it was for Absolute Martian Manhunter, which is cool. But yeah, it says it's a new ongoing series centered on Bruce Wayne continuing both personal and societal trauma. Or confronting, not continuing. It says,
he's continuing in his trauma. There's no plans to change.
It is Batman, so I mean that is an entire arc, right? Like, says he's described the series as a deep introspective look at Batman in the aftermath of a catastrophe. Series appears to be poised to explore Gotham's collective wounds as much as Batman's own, using citywide disaster as the backdrop for a more psychological take on the Dark Knight, which, after reading Absolute Martian Manhunter, seems spot on.
Yeah, psychological. That doesn't sell like the Absolute Martian Manhunter team that I know.
Yep. So it's just gonna be weird when Batman drops mushrooms to solve a case. You know, so he can get involved in the psychoactive aspects of it all. But yeah, no, very exciting news. Which I wonder how long they've known, because with the the whole continuing of Absolute Martian Manhunter going past that initial 6. And because I remember Shadow of the Bat was one of the first next level things they put the logo up for.
Yeah, I bet they have known since at least the break in Absolute Martian Manhunter. That'd be my bet. Maybe even earlier, but at least since then. So
and I wonder if doing more of those have pushed, because since it is Fernandez, it
no, it's
pushed
not.
Shadow of the Bat a little bit. So, yeah, very exciting.
No, it's not, Matt.
Wait, it's not?
It's not Fernandez.
It's Rodriguez. God damn it, I did it again.
I love how you even ignored the first time I said no, it isn't. You just kind of steamrolled past it, and I'm like, no, I'm not letting away with this.
No, because normally I just keep going anyways. That's my normal.
Yes, Ultimate Martian Manhunter, art by Javier Fernandez.
Look, I would still read that, right?
It cracks me up. All right, Static, Cody Ziegler and Diego Olortegui are going to launch the Static series. Yeah, cool for Static, I guess. I don't. Static's this kind of weird character that, like, I don't think I've ever read a Static book in any form. So I really have no attachment to the character, because he comes from. Well, I think he comes from Maelstrom, but like I think he had an animated series, right? That's why people kind of latched onto him.
Yeah, and there's a thing that the writer said that they're dusting off the cobwebs. Is like, those cobwebs can't be that old. They try this every couple of years.
Yeah.
Right? Hopefully it sticks, but I remember reading a Teen Titans book 15 years ago where they tried to integrate Static to it, and it just kind of falls off. So, which I don't understand why. I don't understand why the audience doesn't translate to the books, but best of luck to them. Or the Tigi's a pretty decent artist.
Yeah, and then we got Vixen, which is Stephanie Williams with art by Carrie Randolph, which is a new ongoing series, which apparently Williams has been pitching for ages, and it's been years in the making. And it's not just going to be like, oh, Vixen's a member of the Justice League. It's going to be more about her taking, her doing her own story. Yeah, so I don't know. She says apparently the quote here is, if Rihanna finally decided to be a superhero. So I guess they're going to lead on the celebrity aspect of her, would be my guess. Again, cool. Admittedly, having read Stephanie Williams' stuff here or there, it's not like, I feel like Stephanie Williams tends to come in and do like a fill-in here or there, and I never tend to be that enthusiastic about it. I never tend to hate it, but I never tend to be like that glowing about it either. So I'm not like over the moon or like instantly excited by this.
The fact that she's been building this up for a couple years, it seems like. And there was in the announcement, she said she had a 20-page pitch document, right? Which means she has spent a lot of time thinking. So maybe this is her breakthrough. Maybe this is the one that'll catch. Because I do like Vixen as a character. I just feel like she doesn't get used that often. And this concept of celebrity and superhero, I think, is ripe for right now with, social media and influencers and all this other stuff. It's very curious to see it tackled in this way. And yeah, every time Vixen comes up, it's as a member of a team, right? So to have her out on her own, I'm very curious to check it out. And again, I'm trying to think of the stuff that Williams has done outside of Wonder Woman, and nothing springs to mind. So again, maybe this is the breakthrough.
Yeah, maybe. And then we also had a Jonah Hex book announced. Michael Walsh is doing a horror Jonah Hex book. It's called Jonah Hex and the Shadow of Death. So that's something. It's launching in October. 6-issue limited series.
Supernatural horror, which sign me up. I love a good supernatural western. Yeah, I love when you smash those two things together. So, and the art that's been shown looks really good. So, been dying to read a Jonah Hex book.
The art does look good. I will actually give it that. I have to admit, I've never really felt that impassioned by Jonah Hex. This is the problem when they try and do a bunch of like less used characters. Is I find they often pick ones that I have no attachment to. But I appreciate them trying, because someone's going to latch on to some of these characters at some point. Yeah. So
yeah, Jonah Hex is one that I've tried to get into, and it's a character that's not readily available. There's not a lot of those stories that have been reprinted easily. I know there's going to be some coming out because of we've seen them in solicits, but there was a Palmiotti, not Amanda Connor, the other co-writer he works with, that lasted forever that I just never read, and it's nowhere. I can't find it to read. So again, I've been dying to read a Jonah Hex. So you give me a new one, even if it's 6 issues, I'm gonna give it a go.
Yeah, it being more horror focused it is inherently a bit more appealing to me. Now I'm not familiar with Michael Walsh though, so I have no idea if I'm going to like the writing style, but that'll remain to be seen when it comes out. But that is that. And then the other thing here is there was some Etrigan stuff. James Harren's doing an Etrigan book. The Demon, which is another one of those books for Next Level that was announced, or at least it was one of those ones we saw the logo for in a timeline months and months ago. And then we're getting some actual details about it. So yeah, apparently this also is leaning into horror, promising monstrous creatures, supernatural dread, and a fractured Jason Blood struggling to contain the demon within. I feel like that's always part of Etrigan stories, but
yeah,
fair enough. So yeah, apparently the series opens with the world under siege, though most people can't see it. Hellish creatures stalk humanity, feeding on souls and leaving behind empty shells. The only person capable of seeing these monsters and sending them back is where they belong is Jason Blood. There's just one problem. Jason is no longer the man he once was, haunted by the memory of a long-dead wizard. Wait, what? And tormented by the voice of Etrigan demanding to be unleashed. He's barely holding himself together as darkness spreads across the world. I don't know why, but saying that he's haunted by the memory of a long-dead wizard just made me pause and laugh a little bit.
It's got to be Merlin.
I assume, but it's just the way it's phrased. I just immediately pictured a wizard.
Yeah, wizard. Yeah.
Again,
Etrigan's another character that I have fondness for, but there hasn't been that one story, right, that has connected. I like when he shows up in things. I like how he bounces off, So, we'll see on this one.
Yeah, again, I'll give it a try. I don't really know how I'm going to feel about it. I hope whenever they announce a list of these books that hopefully one or two break through. And I feel bad for just assuming the Batman one is the one that's going to break through because the creative team's so damn good. But it's well, they put the most obviously exciting creative team on the Batman book, so it's the one that's the most lined up for success, aside from the fact that it's also just Batman versus, Jonah Hex or Vixen, who are inherently going to be tougher sells, or who, but to be fair, that team on Shadow of the Bat did make Martian Manhunter a must-buy book, and that is something. That does mean something. So
well, and I also remember us finding about Jeff Lemire doing Firestorm. We were kind of like, oh, and now it's become one of our favorite books.
That's true.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So one of these could be also along that. That John Hex book might be. It's like, oh, Michael Walsh. This is a guy we're going to pay attention to going forward.
It's very possible, and that is the hope. That is the hope with this stuff. Is that one's going to surprise you.
Shadow of the Bat was the big one. I saw that get announced yesterday, and I was like, do I send this to Pete or do we just wait? And I was like, oh, we'll just wait to talk about it on the show, because that's very exciting.
Yep. So that's all the actual comic book stuff I had. I don't know if there was anything else you saw that you wanted to bring up.
No, there was stuff about there's a panel, but I haven't seen it aggregated anywhere yet. That they did a similar thing for Doom Patrol, which is also coming out. And something about Legion of Superheroes, which I'm sure can't wait to hear more about.
Oh yeah, bated breath, all that. Yeah. Super exciting.
So those are the only things that came to mind that I didn't see here. And I'm looking on this website that has everything aggregated, and nothing's really coming up. So
yeah, like we said though, there is literally another panel happening right now, and they're very likely are going to announce some more DC stuff today. So if we don't get to it today, it'll just be in next week's show, along with presumably solicits, which again might not happen till after we're done recording. So, but that's okay.
Yes.
That said though, there is some other news to bring up. There were some new trailers this week for both Lanterns and Clayface. Now, I just kind of glanced at the Clayface one because I didn't really want to spoil anything. There's a couple of creepy images which look cool. I left it at that, didn't keep looking. The Lanterns trailer, though, is quite interesting because there's a lot more Green Lantern-y things in it than any of the previous trailers they've put out. Straight up, we're talking about Manhunters. We have a Sinestro, who not only is name dropped, but we see him in the trailer. Like, he is there. And we hear the Oath. There's more space-looking stuff, even though I'm sure it is mostly going to be set in this small town, because that's just what the show is.
But there's a yellow washed alien planet that it looks like they visit at some point. But yeah, watching that trailer yesterday, not thinking anything about it. I saw people like buzzing about it, and I was like, okay, I'm in regardless. It's Lanterns. You have Coach Taylor playing Hal Jordan. And then once it started to get to the lantern-y stuff, I was like, oh, okay. So they just chose to market this differently, and pace it out, which is, again, smart, right? Like, we don't need to get all the flashy stuff up front. So this being the last trailer, I'm assuming, before the show drops next month, I think is a wise choice. But as a comic book fan, as a longtime Green Lantern fan, this filled me with hope. Like, I could charge a blue ring on that, especially hearing Kyle Chandler do the Green Lantern Oath. And yeah, man, super excited.
Yeah, it definitely looks a bit more like a Green Lantern show now, which is nice. Because there was definitely a worry from the previous trailer that it was kind of ashamed to be that, and it was like, oh no, they're going to do just like a bunch of detective stuff for like 8 episodes, and then in the last 10 minutes you'll get an outfit and you'll get a bit of Green Lantern powers. This trailer shook that up a little bit at least, so hopefully we're getting a more of an even paced thing out of it. Even
an appearance by Fillion's Guy Gardner in the trailer.
I think we got a glimpse of him in a previous trailer actually as well.
Did we?
I think so. Well, at the very least, we knew he was going to be in it anyway, at the very least, but I think we might have seen a quick glimpse of him. This is maybe the first time we've heard him say a line of dialogue, though.
Yeah, so that was another thing where it ties that in. So, and yeah, the Lantern stuff feels very appropriate. Like, it feels what I would expect from the Green Lantern Corps. And who's the actor that's playing Jon Stewart? I always forget his name.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know his name.
He feels like John from the John that I've gotten to know over the last couple of years.
Honestly,
he has this stoic.
He seems better cast than Chandler does, honestly, because Chandler, like I like Kel Chandler well enough, but like I don't necessarily think of Hal Jordan when I look at him. Whereas this guy playing Jon Stewart, he feels like he is just being Jon Stewart. Yeah,
like again, there's a stoicism to him, and like just like when he looks at stuff in the trailer, it feels like he's figuring it out piece by piece, which is a thing that we associate with Jon Stewart from the comics. So, and it seems like he's the lead character from the trailer. It seemed to be really focused
Yeah.
on him more than Chandler. So yeah, I'm super stoked. And my wife looked at me when I showed her the trailer last night. She was like, "Are we gonna watch this weekly?" And I'm like, "I don't think I have a other choice. I don't think I'm gonna allow myself to wait for them all like we did for Peacemaker, you know, because this is again right after Superman. It's like Superman, Nightwing, and then about Green Lantern and Flash. Those are my niches when it comes to the comics. So I am very excited.
Yep. So I'm optimistic. I don't know if I'd outright say excited. You know, it remains to be seen what the quality's like, but you know, I'll go in with a hopeful attitude, and we'll see how it is. But yeah, that's next month now. Weird that it's so close. I do remember when it was supposed to be like in spring, and they pushed it back at some point.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, finally here. Interestingly, Peacemaker was like August last year as well, so it's almost as if August has become the DC show time of the year.
Yeah, their dropping point.
Yeah, so hopefully it's more of a success story than Supergirl was, because it's a bit of a bummer seeing everyone say, "Oh, Supergirl bombed. It's bombed harder than like any superhero movie in years."
I do feel like once it hits mass, you know, like streaming, people are going to come around to it, because I thought it was, the movie's fine. Like, it is worth a watch, I feel. I don't think that its box office speaks to the quality or anything. But when we were in LA last weekend, we made a special trip to drive by Warner Brothers to see the water tower, hoping that it was still wrapped with the Supergirl stuff. And Pete, it was not. So it feels like they are already. And mind you, there were these billboards for this new Superman experience that's on the tour that is up there with all the Batman-y things to go see when you do the Warner Brothers tour. So I thought, oh, we'll see the Supergirl wrapped water tower, and I can get a picture. And we drove by, and it was just the regular Warner Brothers tower, and I was like, oh, that's not a good sign.
That was quick. They removed that pretty quick.
It hasn't even been a month.
It's barely been, what, 3 weeks?
Yeah,
something like that. I don't know. Maybe
it dropped on June 28th. As we record, it is the 25th.
Okay, it's been almost a month. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, but when you were there, it would have been only 3 weeks.
Last weekend.
Yeah.
We drove by. It was actually last Saturday that we drove by. So, man.
Oh, well.
Yep.
That is that. Well, that'll get us on to the books then. And we can get into things. So starting off with Absolute Wonder Woman issue 22, Kelly Thompson writing with Dillion Snook on the art. So yeah, we're still in hell with Diana, and we're still following Barbara Ann on her story, being seduced by Urs Katarga to become Cheetah, which, I mean, just it happens in this issue. You know, she accepts. Yeah, although here I do like that Thompson set up that Urs Katarga seemed to manipulate Barbara Ann more than we've seen when we've seen this origin, where it seems like it's more thrust upon her like a curse. Here, the way that Urs Katarga appeals to her and being like, well, yeah, you're standing next to Diana, but you'll never be like Diana. She'll always be, you know, she's a demigod. And with me, if you take the power of the cheetah, you can be equal to her and stand by her side. And I was like, oh, that is an interesting take on this, right? Like appealing to her goodness. And then we all know what the cheetah curse does, right? Like it's not good. So to see how that's going to play out now in the Absolute universe. Although,
again,
asterisks here. We know what the cheetah curse does in the regular universe.
True.
No, I'm not saying that means that it's going to be good in this year. I'm just saying that we don't know if it's exactly the same. There may be some little quirks that are different.
Yeah, but the fact that it appealed to her and it shows Barbara Ann, you know, digging in the dirt as a child in her form of archaeology and like always wanting to experience something more. You know, I really appreciated that because it was like, oh, this is why she took this power, and like what's the fallout from that? Like, is she gonna be able to stand side by Diana and be an ally? Right? Like, is that gonna be a twist here? Are they not even gonna make her, the traditional cheetah, or is it going to corrupt her as it goes? But the fact that it's giving us this jumping on point, I really like.
I suspect it'll be both. There's going to be a period where she's more villainous. There's going to be a period where she's maybe able to overcome that and kind of stand by her side. But giving her basically the choice to accept this power, knowing kind of full well that she might be being manipulated, but is kind of too tempted by this idea of being more important, that she doesn't just want to be the second fiddle, just be the friend of the superhero. She wants to be the superhero. That is very interesting because it's not inherently an evil decision, but it is like one of like a weakness, and it means that she is in some way responsible for her own troubles that's coming ahead, and that is a little bit interesting compared to, at least typically it tends to be more just like she doesn't usually have a choice in it, right, in the regular universe.
No, it's usually she uncovered the tomb or whatever, and it gets thrust upon her,
Yeah,
and she's been stuck with it, and
you can still see how that should feel guilty about that, like, oh, this is my fault because I went looking for this thing. But this is a bit more direct. This is a bit more, no, I actively made the choice to let this thing in, and the consequences are going to be her own, for better or worse, going forward. And that might make her more tortured, perhaps, than the regular Barbara Ann usually is, because she's dealing with that guilt and dealing with that regret on top of everything. Now, we may not get there initially. Maybe there'll be a little honeymoon period where she's like, oh, I feel great, I'm powerful, I'm sexy, I'm jumping around and running like a cat. Right. This is great. But
and I can also see it playing out where Diana's like, no, you don't understand the powers you're playing with. And Barbara Ann's like, well, no, I do. And that's what causes the strain between them, right? She feels like Diana's trying to tell her about herself. Right, and that adds to it, and it goes bases off of their dynamic, not just cheetah evil, But yeah, and then that sequence where Kale comes through, and Barbara Ann, we don't see her as the cheetah, but we see the outcome of it as she's broken containment from Area 41.
Yeah,
that was all really
because
cool.
basically all we get is kind of just a little bit of a tease of like silhouette of like her becoming cat-like and like the hand turning into claws. And then we just see the hole that's left after her escape. So we're saving the actual reveal of what she looks like as Cheetah until either next issue or beyond, whatever that will be. But which was a good bit of a tease. It was like, oh, okay, we've got this to look forward to. And I'm also glad in a way that it's not this artist doing the full-on first time, because this art's not as good as the regular artist. And I'm glad that that they didn't get to take that moment.
You're telling me I'm going to get Hayden Sherman doing Barbara Ann as Cheetah for the first time? Sign me up, please.
Yeah. And then the Diana stuff in the underworld is probably the lesser interesting side of the issue. It's not bad by any means, but it's not as exciting as the Cheetah stuff. But it's basically just going to rescue Cersei, and there's some cool action that comes from it. She cuts off the tentacle of what's her name? Scylla. And it's fun, and Hecate eventually shows up and is like, no, I never said you could kill Diana.
Girls, stop fighting. I also like that she makes her big sword even bigger, right? That's one of the spells that she does to fight Scylla. I was like, okay, Diana's still doing her cool things.
Yeah, I guess the important,
I'm still waiting.
I was to say, the important things here that come out of it really are, one, she's done a spell that bonds her to Cersei, so that if one of them dies, the other one will also die. And that's kind of like, hey, you can't kill Cersei now, because if you kill her, you'll kill me. And that's going to piss off certain gods, so you don't want to be doing that. Right. So that's an interesting mechanic going forward, assuming that sticks. And the other thing is that Hecate, when she talks to Cersei on her own, she's like, hey, you better like talk some sense into Diana, or maybe I picked the wrong person to like train her to achieve her goal. So she's kind of alluding to like, oh, Diana's got a purpose as far as she's concerned, and we don't really know what that purpose is. So I'm curious what we're teasing there, but that's like a very notable moment to kind of sort of take down and be like, okay, we're building to something there.
And the way that Cersei's tone is, though, too, it's like, well, you picked me for a reason, right? Like, what did you guys expect her to be like? With her mentoring her and being her mother. I thought that was interesting as well. but yeah, the action sequence with Scylla, in how that plays out is again very Absolute Wonder Woman, which was cool. But it's a lot of just action sequences. Like there's not a lot of development with the underworld type stuff. We just know that she got pulled at the wrong time, and it feels like machinations. You know?
And she's feeling pretty rough because she feels like everyone who gets close to her is a target. You know, Cersei's been kidnapped. Yeah. She's worried about Barbara Ann because of how things left with her. So she's concerned that anyone who gets close to her, like she's like, oh, I can't do this alone, but anyone who helps me ends up being a target and gets hurt because of being beside me. So this is something that she's dealing with now, and yeah, we'll see where that goes going forward. But I mean, yeah, the thing is that normally if it was Sherman, like half the issue being the action would not be a problem because it would be so good looking. Nope. Here, it's not bad, and there is at least some interesting color stuff they do, where, you know, when Hecate shows up and it's like the big bright orange panel, which is just the word enough, like you feel the impact of that, but it's not as, you know, interesting or as elegantly flowing as it usually is in this book. So while there's some cool moments of like giant swords cutting off big tentacles, that's kind of the high point, and there's not really as much to say about it as there normally would be, I don't think. Yeah.
For sure. I like the way that Hecate is drawn as well. I'm trying to get to that page as it goes. The way that she comes out with the like you said, the bright orange and just like her symbol, you know, being the focal point with it, and then the way that she just seems to glow in that, I think that all looks really good. But yeah, like it's very basic 4-panel kind of stuff. You know, the double page spread. It's all what you would expect from comics. It's just, again, fine, but we have a higher standard when it comes to Absolute Wonder Woman at this point. You know, so it just seems to be less in comparison, even though it does its job.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me though is that I'm just not that fond of this artist's faces. Is the main thing. Yeah. Everyone's got kind of a tall, kind of. Not a skinny face per se, but there's just kind of like a very particular quality they all have. Yeah. So.
That said, the stuff with I think Barbara Ann does look pretty good, just because it is, you know, the way that it's playing with the faces and the proportions and the close-ups and stuff. I feel like that stuff is handled pretty well. You know, like when it picks her up and we see the kind of transformation that's going on. You know, I don't have as much of an issue there, but then you turn the page and when you see Kale, it has that long face type stuff that you're talking about. Yeah. So yeah, it alternates radically between the proportions.
Yeah. And it's consistent in all the characters. Diana's got it, Cersei's got it, Kale's got it. Like it's all throughout the issue. Like just people have this kind of it's almost like a face template this artist has. They just kind of stuck out to me, but a good fine issue with some exciting developments and stuff that it's teasing that are really cool. You know, I think Thompson's writing's still very much on point, but you know, the different artists and just kind of brings it down a little bit compared to a regular issue of Absolute Wonder Woman, I think it would be fair to say. So but with that said, Matt, what are you giving Absolute Wonder Woman?
I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
Interesting. Do I want to go higher? I think it's almost at the 8, but I think I'm going to agree with the 7.5. It's like it's almost there, but it just
but it really is the art, right?
Yeah,
that holds it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think that, and also Diana's like story does feel a little bit like a side mission. Because like, you know, obviously it's going to be fun when she gets back to Earth and she gets to meet back up with everyone and find out what happened to Barbara Ann, and it'll be exciting because she's gone, but I don't necessarily think that what she's been doing in Hell this last couple of issues has been, you know, that interesting on its own compared to what we were doing before. So, you know, that's its own little kind of just not stumble, even that's a bit of a harsh word, but just, you know, a slight pause in the story, and you kind of feel that. Whereas the Barbara Ann stuff feels like it's continuing the exciting stuff, which is why I think that part still feels exciting.
Yeah. It's like a speed bump, right? We just have to slow down for a second.
Yes.
And go over it, get over that, and then we'll be good. But yeah.
All right. Absolute Superman issue 21, Jason Aaron writing with Rafa Sandoval on the art. So, last issue, Superman armored up. He grabbed the hammer, the mace, and he started flying off to Black Adam, and he messages via radio Lois and Jimmy and basically says, hey, if I don't make it here, right, if this plan to like beat up Black Adam on the moon doesn't quite go well and I don't make it, I've got a list of things I need you to do. And it's basically just a list of people that he checks in on every month and like goes and helps. An old man in this country who needs his medication, a child in this country, some rivers that he always checks because they're prone to flooding, just a big list of stuff like that. So it's really getting across the heart of Superman here. As they're kind of reluctantly agreeing to this, but they're obviously both hoping that, like, no, like, you make sure you come back. We're not ready to be done with you yet. So, yeah. And then the action, the epic action on the moon between Superman and Black Adam is pretty wild.
Yeah, Black Adam punches a hole through the moon.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
And then Superman has to, after the fight, weld it back together with his eyes. I didn't know you could weld rock, per se, but I'm sure he thought of something. But
I'm sure if you get it hot enough, it'll melt like magma, and you just piece it together, then blow it cold like glue, right? But no, I love that. I love that Aaron gives them such a mythic quality, because this feels like what they used to write myths about, right? There's a lot of his Thor here, which I appreciate because that is one of my favorite stories about these big mythic things that Thor had done, you know. And here, the mythic thing that Kal-El's been doing is like going and checking on people, right? Like in an issue where Black Adam punches a hole through the moon, the thing that resonated me with the most was like, even through all his superpowers and whatever he does, the things that Kal-El does are the most human. It's the compassionate, you know. Checks on that old man and goes to read to him, make sure he takes his medicine, goes and cleans up litter. Granted, he's walking on the water while he does it, right? But he goes and cleans up, you know, rivers and lakes and the ocean and whatnot. And yeah, I think that just speaks to Aaron's quality of that myth making, right? That he humanizes Kal-El while making Black Adam seem like this larger than life threat, you know. And this is the struggle between the two of them.
yeah, and Superman's trying to appeal to, like, hey, when you were that kid and you made that wish and you wanted to help everyone, like, remember why you did that and why isn't that still your goal? And it does feel like Black Adam's kind of switched to just vengeance and anger and all the rest of it. But yeah, I mean, I mean, obviously we're talking about the hole through the moon, but even like a few pages earlier, when he just kind of slams down into the moon, there's that big panel of just the bottom half of the page where just a sort of ripple of the impact. Looks very, very good. The action feels so big. It feels so epic. The coloring's great in all of it as well, because obviously the black and the gold really pop against the blue and the red. All very good. And you know, as perhaps often the case, is effectively the way that the fight is won here is that Black Adam makes the mistake of saying the word Shazam. He's yelling about who he is. He's like, Teth Adam is no more. I am simply Shazam. Page turn, crackroom. Oh no, I'm a child again and I can't breathe because I'm on the moon. And that's when Hawkman shows up with a father box that he stole from Talia and zaps him elsewhere.
Yeah, I do love that I didn't even piece together that's what Kal-El was doing when he was like, who are you? I thought he was just trying to remind him of the boy he was. And it's like, no, he's trying to get him to say his name. I was like, oh, dummy. Of course. That was the plan from the end of the last issue. But I got so wrapped up in the action, you know? And so when that happens, and that looks so good, because the way that he does the panel, right, where it creates like an arrow when, you know, the lightning strikes, and then it creates like this border with the arrow, almost like lightning itself. And then he's that boy, you know, who he hasn't been in, you know, eons. And just the surprise on his face and the rubble that's around him on the moon.
But it's important.
Lightning strike. It's
important that we're on the moon, though, because he can't just say it again. Because now he can't breathe. Right. He's gasping for air. So it's all very strategic. Also, Jimmy decides to take a shot at Talia and shoots her in the leg, and Lois's narration's like, oh, we all just like to assume that that's where he was aiming, and he wasn't actually just a bad shot, but he was trying to kill her. And I'm like, damn. So Jimmy's off to find the Omega Men. Lois didn't even go for her interview at the Daily Planet. She instead went to the Smallville Gazette. It's because Gotham Gazette's got the alliteration, so my mind immediately went there. So she's going to Smallville to be a reporter there instead. And yeah, there's a bit of a kind of a wrap up feel to a lot of the end of it, where Lois is actually visiting Talia in her prison cell, a lot like how Superman visited Raz when he was in prison. And now I don't know if it's having any effect on Talia yet. She looks bemused at best behind those bars, but maybe that's something we'll return to in the future. But yeah, there's a lot of wrap up here to again give it that kind of mythical feel to it. And yeah, the action was great, but the ending, of course, reveals where child Black Adam went. Of course, and he doesn't stay child for long. He very quickly transforms back. And he vows to return. He wants to come back to Earth, conquer it, take out Superman. Final page spread, though, as he says, it'll be Superman's doom. He seems to be on a planet full of doomsdays.
Yep.
Absolute
they're all
doomsdays.
Craggy, they got the spikes. And it makes it seem like he's in hell, right? Like the way that Black Adam's talking, where he goes, "Is this my damnation?" You know, just know that however far from home you've taken me, it won't be enough. Right? So it's like, this is his perceived hell. And, who's in the hell? But Doomsday, which, of course. So, or a series of Doomsdays.
Yeah, several.
I count 6 of them here.
An entire species of Doomsday, seemingly. Now, is this literally hell? I mean, probably not. It's probably just a planet that he's, taken as his hell. But, I mean, that said, though, if Aaron wants to turn around in like 5 issues' time and say, hey, by the way, that is just hell, I'll be like, okay, I'll accept it. But,
but yeah, there's the father box, the planet's in the background, but it just seems very much like, again, this is how Adam is taking that. And it's very curious to see when he does come back, because he still has all his powers, right? He says, wherever he's at, he can say the word, he says it. So, and it seems now that Superman does have an arch nemesis that we haven't had yet, right? Because he dispatched Roz, in the course of those issues. That seemed to be the big bad.
I mean, I suspect that Black Adam will be gone for a while, though, before he comes back, and maybe we'll shift to maybe Brainiac and what he's doing with Lex for a bit or something, maybe something else entirely. We'll find out, I suppose, but...
I also, in there, we get that... John Henry is also, he's recovering, and so is Parasite. So it's good that the Parasite's not completely gone. Because they even tell Superman, your dog's here too. And that Lois's first story for the Smallville Gazette is an expose on the meat packing, what's been going on there, because that was part of John Henry's story, which I like them bringing that back around too. But yeah, it definitely felt like a wrap up, and that we're going to be, jumping into a new part of Absolute Superman, which is nice, because this did feel like a nice little capper.
Yeah, and for the record, I've really liked this entire arc. Like, this entire... I mean, honestly, and I'm kind of including the 2 issues of the Parasite stuff that introduced the Hawkman along with Superman, but these 3 or 4 issues of Black Adam, I think, have been very good. I've enjoyed the backstory, the wild additions of the Brainiacs into the Black Adam origin. All the fightings felt super epic, and the art's been fantastic. It's been kind of like the book at its best, where it's been like really exciting to get to, because it's been feeling larger than life these past couple of short arcs. So I am totally down for whatever Aaron wants to do next. But yeah, I'm looking forward to more deranged Brainiac with chainsaws to grace our pages and see how that's going.
Well, that's what it says. Get Brainiac is next. That's on the last page.
Oh, so you know what? It's because it's after the actual last page of the book, because it's like a separate page from the art. Yeah, because sometimes you just get in the corner of the last page. This is like a separate title page afterwards. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good for that. Yeah, give me some Brainiac shit. I'm down. But no, this has been great. It's funny we said that this actually seemed to outsell Absolute Wonder Woman digitally this week. I think it's interesting that the quality actually is also a little bit higher, which is also kind of rare because it's usually Absolute Wonder Woman that's leading the charge. But,
usually correlation's not causation, but here it seems like it might.
Yeah. All right, what are you giving Absolute Superman 21?
8.5.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Yeah, it's great. It's very great even. Big, epic, bold, looks great. Yep. Don't really have much to complain about, honestly. And it even had some of the heart. Like you said, the thing that resonated the most might be the way Superman wanted to make sure all the people he checked on every month were going to be looked after. That said, though, I don't think Jimmy and Lois could keep checking in on them. It'd be kind of unfeasible for them. But at the very least, go and see them once to make sure they know, hey, Superman's not coming back. So let's make other arrangements.
Yeah, it was the idea that, just keep an eye, be good to your fellow humans, I think, too, was Kal-El's final message to Lois and Jimmy. And I am curious to see what's going to happen with the Omega Men, because that seemed to be an inside thing with Talia, right? Like, that was the Lazarus Corporation playing both sides. So I wonder what's going to happen with that, if that's Jimmy taking that over, if that's him, going in deeper. But yeah, hopefully, he shot her in the shin for a reason. And not that he's a bad shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they kind of teased, Jimmy and Lois might get jobs at the Daily Planet, and then by the end of this issue, both of those things aren't happening. Like, Lois is becoming a reporter, it seems like, but Jimmy's going back to being a freedom fighter. So, okay, we'll see where that goes. But that is Absolute Superman. All right, Detective Comics 1111, or 1111, to sound like a robot doing binary for a second. That is Tom Taylor writing with MIkel Janin on the art. So, last issue ended with the bombshell that Black Canary is responsible for Prion's death. Kind of. And I say that having now read this issue, where really he just kind of had a sudden death. She just happened to be sparring with him in a boxing ring when it happened.
Well, it did help that he had a condition that one punch can become fatal. Like, his organs will shut down after being struck.
But
so
no one
him
knew
becoming
that,
a superhero. No, but like him becoming a superhero seemed to be like, well, whoever put him up to this, right? You got to think that this has to do with some revelations that come out later. Did they not know about that? Because that seems to be not the job line for somebody with that kind of condition. Or alternatively, was that like a kill switch that he wasn't doing what they wanted? Right, so this was their way to get rid of that.
Possibly. Honestly, though, I actually think it's more interesting if it's just a complete accident that he has this condition because he just naturally has it, and like it threw a wrench into these bad guys' plans. That our guy turned out to be a glass cannon where one little tap just completely shattered him.
God, poor Dinah accidentally killing a man in the ring.
Oh dear. Yeah. Because he reveals that he's figured out who Batman is. When Batman comes the next day with his cowl off, and the other's like, "Hey, Batman, your cowl's off. What are you doing?" He's like, Prion figured out who I was, and I figured out how he did it as well. There was like a thing in the Batmobile. I have closed that potentiality from ever happening again. So no, you've been had, Prion. But he's made a new symbol for the team that incorporates all their logos a little bit, which is almost kind of cute. But then I
like it.
The boxing match or the sparring match happens, and by the end of that, Prion's dead. So then we snap back to present day, and we have and honestly, like, they kind of teased us last time that maybe the granddaughter or the daughter of Prion would be like hesitant to trust Black Canary, but to be honest, after the evil grandmother lunges at them, she kind of quickly realizes, nah, Black Canary's still the good guy. I'm still going to go with her. I'm not going to faff about here. So there's a bit of a fight there with the granny and others coming in. There's a whole escape sequence of them getting out of the house, Canary using her canary cry, and so on.
Yeah.
The big thing here, though, the back half of the issue builds up to once they've got everyone out, and there's some fun stuff along the way. I enjoyed the joke actually where Oliver's like, okay, him and Dinah are taking the girl in the bat plane, and Oliver cracks a joke about how, well, you won't have like a movie or any snacks or it, and so, but you know, it's not a bad flight. And then Batman just turns around, almost insulted by the suggestion, goes, no, there's screens in there with access to a private library. Also, there's refreshments under the seat. And it's like, oh, he has thought of all these things. All right. Which, it's funny to me. Because I'm just imagining, like, anytime Batman has to fly, like, a long flight, like, let's say he's, like, going from Gotham to, like, Mexico because he has to investigate something. Does that mean for, like, half the flight he is just chilling, watching, like, I don't know, Shawshank Redemption, like, in the bat plane? He's just got his feet up. It's like, oh, well, I'll just chill.
What are Bruce Wayne's comfort movies? That's a great question. Like, what did he stock on this plane, you know, for him to watch? You know,
that's a tough question. I mean, the obvious thing would be a version of Zorro, but I think maybe not, given what that led to in his childhood. Trauma. Yeah, too much trauma.
There's some trauma there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what's on there, but the snacks in that, very, very funny. That is a because Batman that will make me chuckle. That's how you handle that. I was like, oh yeah, of course Batman had a plan for long distance trips. So,
but Batman's got a hunch that he doesn't like, and he tries to investigate it, and he goes around searching for stuff, and then he hears that Ted's gym's burning down, so he goes there instead to try and investigate that. The art there's gorgeous, by the way, with him walking through all the smoke and all that after he's throwing in the grenades that disperse the fire. So he walks in and like there's just the red smoke around him. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
But he encounters the evil granny, and the hunch that he had, which ends up being a reveal here towards the end, is that the dying words of Prion, which didn't make any sense to them when they heard it as he was dying, Batman says those words, and it turns out to be the trigger phrase for the old granny, revealing that this old lady isn't really evil. She is also being programmed by whoever the real bad guy is to function as this evil like person in charge of the whole program with the granddaughter. So this poor old woman kind of snaps out of her brainwashing and then starts to freak out because her hands look so old, and it turns out she's not been herself for over a decade. And I'm like, damn, that's dark. Whoever's doing this is actually very malicious about it.
Yeah. And whoever put in that code too for it, about the Prion. So it's almost like Prion is investigating his own undoing, which I like that as well, because we're setting up like how he was able to piece together about Batman, and it's that inspiration that is driving this forward now. The investigation with the daughter. They find out that his name was Ramon. He left her a note, like a letter, you know, and to all that. So he definitely cared through this. So whoever this lady was, she hasn't been for the last 10 years. So which is a bit scary.
But I think it's a cool plot development, because it's like, okay, anyone in this organization might not actually be a bad person. They might just be programmed to be doing what they're doing. And then it does make me wonder then, are we going to get some sort of interesting reveal about who's the leader of all this? Who's the one doing all the programming?
Right.
Who's at the top of the food chain? Is it going to be like a classic Bat villain who's been doing this for years? Yeah. You know, because I'm looking at this egg that he has to put in her hand before he says the thing, and like for some reason my mind just went straight to the Mad Hatter, and you know, based on the mind control hats and all that, it thematically fits. I just don't know if you can really sell me in the idea that a goofy villain like Mad Hatter's been like up to this master plan for over 10-15 years or whatever it's been.
It wouldn't surprise me if it's the Mad Hatter tech more than anything, because that would go along with like the through line that we've had since Taylor's taken over of these new groups of villains using, you know, established things. So like the lion using the fear toxin and adjusting it to become the unfear toxin, right? It takes people's fear away. I wonder if this is the Mad Hatter tech that is now being used to give people different lives and whatnot, or take over the bodies. You know, so like you said, maybe it's not Mad Hatter because, like you said, the goofiness and whatnot.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's heavily changed though, because like Mad Hatter tech relies on tech. It relies on the hat itself, and it relies on like unless I'm misremembering something, I don't think it ever has like trigger phrases that snap people out of it. It tends to be more just getting them away from the MacGuffin, basically. So
Right, and that's why I'm thinking it's someone that's adjusted that tech, right, for this type of stuff. You know, they put the phrases because it's just the fact that also that it seems like it's a nursery rhyme is the saying too about the fairy Brian leaving the cave or what? Not the cave, but the nest. Is that what he says? The fairy Brian has danced on the waves. It has hunted long and filled its beak with crustaceans. Right, so that feels like something from I don't know, like a storybook or something, which would also tell me Mad Hatter, something along those lines. But yeah, or it could just be something completely new, and we're just getting to, which Taylor's done, which I do like so far through this detective run. It has been new things. He's not going back to, you know, established bat villains and whatnot.
I know for the most part. I mean, this isn't even necessarily I mean, brainwashing and having trigger phrases is not necessarily a unique concept. It's just kind of, you know, it's just not something that a bat villain has particularly used before, to some great extent, from what I can remember. So, you know, it's really selling the idea of whoever's behind all this is some kind of evil mastermind who is very malicious, and Batman's determination in the last page of like, oh, I'm going to find whoever this and destroy them. Like this is horrific. They are using people to do bad things against their will, and they've got no control over it. That is, you know, just nasty and evil. And so, yeah. You know, honestly, I mean, the weirdest thing about this entire arc is just this idea of inserting Prion into this backstory of like, hey, you know, Batman, Black Canary, and Green Arrow all made new friends with this Prion guy who apparently was so important to them that they've said something like, oh, we loved you, your father, your son, kind of thing, to other characters in the present day. And I'm like, I don't know, it feels like he was around for a week and you saw potential in him, then he died suddenly. That's the vibe I'm actually getting from this.
Yeah. Diana punched him in the kidney and he died. Like, oh.
Yeah, so but no, I mean, I've enjoyed the unraveling of who's behind all this, and that's been something that's been true basically ever since that issue of the girl trying to assassinate Oliver in the skyscraper, and everything that's happened since then I've really enjoyed. Also the assassination attempts before that actually in general were pretty cool, and that's the other thing here, is that because this is something that is taking control of people, it's like, oh, that's how someone's getting away with all these assassinations, because when she's evil, before he snaps her out of it, she basically says, hey, if you don't give the girl back, we're going to kill all the Robins, we're going to kill all the Batgirls, and we're not going to stop. You're dead either way, but we'll kill all them if you don't give her back. So they are threatening big things here. So yeah, we'll see if if it's someone new, or if it's maybe a reveal of an organization or a villain that we do recognize in some form.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting stuff. And Janin's art obviously is very good. You know,
it's not the best it's been, but it's still pretty good. You know, and it's not the best.
I mean, there's some great atmospheric stuff of Batman going through the burning gym. I really like how differently he draws the woman's face. Like, you know, when she's being evil and she's got this scowl, she's got this evil smirk and all that. But then obviously after the deprogramming, she has this, you know, shocked and horrified look in her face. She has this stare that is like, oh no, like the art sells this idea that she is completely different after this, and that's good. It sells the concept of what's happening in the story. So that's still very good stuff throughout. So yeah, no, I'm digging the story for the most part. Just the Prion being so important in the backstory is kind of weird, but that's been a thing the entire arc, so nothing new there. Yeah,
but we've talked about that with that, but yeah, and the burning of Wildcat's gym. Wildcat can't catch a break. Right, first he dies. Now his gym's getting burned down. Seems his legacy, but I think that logo's pretty good. Like that design that Batman went to. That uses all four of their different logos in a way that splits it up four ways.
Do you know what's weird though? Is that they say, oh, he's made costumes for us all, and you see like in the background of a panel like a clothes rack with like these costumes, and I'm like, yeah, but none of Batman's not wearing any of this shit. There's no way Batman's putting on this skin tight thing with this logo on it. That's not like he's going to look like Batman no matter what.
No, it looks like what you wear under the cowl, right? It looks like the Under Armour that you wear before you put on your pads when you play football, you know? So And I don't think Dinah wouldn't wear that either. I would feel, you know.
Yeah, but you see her wearing it,
It's gonna mess up the fishnet look.
But in the sparring match, you see both Prion and Dinah wearing it, so it does seem like she could be wearing it. It still kind of suits her because it's not too dissimilar to her usual outfit. In
the sparring match, it's like workout clothes. You know,
but I'm just saying.
I don't see her wearing that into the field.
Imagine Batman wearing this with the big blue stripe going down the middle of it with his back cowl and cape on over the top of it. It would look goofy. I don't think he had any intention of putting that on. Even if the logo was kind of neat in its simplicity, which is basically just bat ears, a canary tail, and then one wing's a green arrow and the other wing's a Prion wing. So, yeah. But hey, whatever. Bye, Prion. We hardly knew ye. You're dead. Sucks for you. But life shall move on regardless. All right, Matt, what are you giving Detective Comics?
Straight 8.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I was trying to wonder, like, do I want to justify going up? But no, I think I agree. Like, it's okay for matching, it's fine. This means we're in sync. That's all. I'm sure maybe we'll have some different opinions on the next book. Which, for the record, Action Comics 1100, and there's like 4 different teams in this, so we'll mention them as we go. I didn't write them down because there's a lot of names. So this wraps up the current arc that was in Action, kind of continues on to a Joshua Williamson story that also kind of sets up what's happening next across the board in Superman. Then there's some other stuff from other current writers, including the Supergirl writer, and obviously ends with Superman Unlimited stuff, which is setting up the crossover that is just about to start. So, generally speaking, I liked most of this issue, with one giant caveat, which is, and to be fair, I already felt this way before I knew Williamson wrote this part, right? But the entire thing after like the end of the current arc, which honestly is probably the part we'll talk the least about, because it's basically just, you know, teenage Clark Kent fights the Epoch character and worries that he's going to lose, ends up charging himself with the solar rays again by grabbing the machine that the scientist prepared, and then he
Doc Browns it.
Yeah, Mary, Jean, and Booster all pop back up because the timeline's restored, and they beat Epoch. That's pretty much it. However, they decide to tell him that the reason why they came here in the first place is because they're trying to find Superman because he's been missing because of KO, right? And that leads us into the second kind of story, which is basically they're in the time stream in this little ship they've built to take Superboy into the present day or the future with them to try and find Superman. And it's basically just, 10 pages of, hey, teenage Clark Kent, here's all the stuff you're going to do in the future. React to it. This is horrible. I hated this. First of all,
it's a whistle-stop tour of Superman's history. It doesn't need to be in a Action Comics 1100.
They love to do like let's look at the entire history of Superman and any of their milestone numbers. I get that, but this is actively annoying because young Clark should not see any of this stuff. Not because of timeline, wonkiness, which is what the characters talk about, and Booster just ignores them. No. It cheapens any of the journey of him actually becoming Superman if he already knows who Lois is, if he already knows he's going to work at Daily Planet, he already knows Supergirl is going to exist, he already knows that he's going to have crypto, he already knows this and this. And obviously, they might erase his memory before he goes back, and okay, that's good. It's the best case scenario at this point. But that doesn't mean in hindsight I like this. That they fixed it later on so I can... No, it's just nothing but nostalgia pops for 10 pages, and it's all just so young Superboy can just react to everything that he's going to do in the future. And I'm like, no, this sucks. I hate this.
Until they get to the death of Superman, and then John's like, Clark, look at me. Look at me. Don't look over there. Look at me.
Yeah.
And then underneath that is John, which is like...
let's just examine that for a moment, shall we? The one thing you can't know is you're going to die someday, even though that's the one thing you kind of knew is that you'd probably die someday. all this other stuff we're showing you is all this stuff you couldn't have predicted or known in some capacity. Yeah. I don't know. There's just conceptually, I just think that this entire thing is just bad from the get-go, and it ultimately just ends up being, we get to the end of the time stream and adult Superman's there and young Superman grabs him, and it's, you know, this may be like a big deal, young version save the old version, and it even ends with young Superman being like, hey, can I come back to your present day and see what it's like for a little bit before I go back? And adult Superman's like, what the hell? Yeah, you can come. Yeah. You can come for this crossover. And I'm like, what are we doing? This is like inverse Tomorrow Man.
No, they're not wearing a mask. So it can't be Tomorrow Man. There's no mask.
But it's equally as annoying to me though. It feels murky for no reason other than we want to have teenage Clark around for this event that's happening. And I'm just kind of like, why? Like the event that's set up at the end of this in the last part is actually pretty cool. I'm actually kind of excited for a Zod story that does a crossover all the super books. That sounds like fun.
And the way they set it up too was a nice fun surprise.
Yeah, it was,
which we'll get there when we talk about it. I like that. But yeah, I will say the Sampier art though does look really good. So it just kind of sucks that it's for nothing of a story, that it's just Superman with a beard reacting to Superboy.
Also, Superman's been missing for like 3 or 4 months, and the getting him back is just, we went to the end of the time stream and he's there floating. He's literally just floating there at the end of time. All right, grab him. Right, we got him. Done.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. All they needed was a paradox engine, which they pulled from Epoch, you know, put it into this time bubble that they reformed. And here we go.
Do you know what this reeks of? This reeks of, there wasn't actually a good reason to have Superman absent for 4 months. We basically didn't have a good excuse for it or a good plan for how he would come back. We just wanted him gone because we liked the idea of this Reign of the Superboys thing for a few months, and that's it. There's no actual story reason for Superman himself why he had to be absent for this time, and because it has been relatively short, which is good on one hand because it's like, okay, we can get back to just doing proper Superman stories. The negative to that is though, is it feels like, you just wasted your time with this. Like, if you're going to do it, commit to it and actually do something with that absence. But so I don't know. This entire Williamson section, that just pissed me off in one way or another.
Which we will see in that Superman, where do they tease it here? There's the editor's note. And Superman Annual Year 1000. So we'll see what Superman was up to. And I'm sure it won't be that good of a reason.
Oh, God. But, it's going to be...
Maybe you won't, but I will.
I really don't want to read that. That is going to be, I am willing to bet, 40 to 50 pages of Superman floating through different memories or different events that don't really form much of a story. I'm willing to almost bet you.
All the thing, going back to the Wade stuff, where he's going through the different time, I just wish it was handled in a better way than, like, again, it's just a whistle-stop tour. When he's like, I get a dog, and then there's not even any resolution. It's just them showing him with crypto, and then there's a thing about Lex, which I feel they're just wedging Lex into his past because he's just like, I recognize him, that's Lex. And Brewster's like, you've met him, I take it? He goes, yeah, briefly, he was my friend, but he left Smallville, is he coming back? And it's just like, what is the purpose for all of this?
Yeah,
there is none.
The young Clark doing this time travel bollocks is just not. I mean, I don't like it even with the Legion side of things either. But like, I especially hate this. Yeah. This is just, it's almost distilled down to its purest crap form here. Of just, hey, he's going to see a bunch of stuff that you shouldn't know about the future. Hey, you're going to be best friends with Batman. Look forward to that.
Yeah, the one part that did get me is when he sees Jimmy and Lois. And young Superboy is like, she's kind of hot for an older lady. I thought that was a pretty funny thing to put in there. Like, because at least that's something different. That's something he's commenting on. That's not just like, look. Who's that? What's this? At least he has some kind of agency there. So, but then you get to the Sampier stuff, which I just wish there was something notable more happening than just Superman meeting Superboy, in this time bubble where there's not a lot of backgrounds, so Sam Pierce art really stands out and looks great. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, I just this is it. This is all that the finding him was going to be. Then why did we even do the time without him? Or I don't know. It didn't work for me, and it does make me think that we're probably going to go back to just more young Smallville stuff in action afterwards. It seems like that's not going to be done yet, which I'm kind of happy about because I've been enjoying it. But it just kind of sucks that the end of this arc that we were in just kind of dovetailed into all this, and it also was marred by that horrible like mixed art in a couple of the issues as well. So you know, it's been kind of a weird mixed bag overall. This particular arc, even though the stuff with Lana being jealous of Mary was hysterical as we expected it to be, but
yes, all of the young teenage stuff I thought was really good. The Captain Comet stuff. It's when it started to tie into this Where is Superman? Once Mary and Jean and Booster showed up, that it kind of started to trail off. Yeah,
it shouldn't be tying into modern or like present day Superman stuff. It just it's always going to get murky when you do that. And this issue is kind of a damning indictment of it. Now the next part, which is the Sophie Campbell with Dan Mora on art part, is basically just kind of like the rest of the Super family are making a mess at the Kent's like apartment in Metropolis, and Lois is frustrated and is complaining about Superboys, and when she finds them all playing video games, she's mad that Supergirl is kind of encouraging them, and she's like, come on, Kara, aren't you the heir to you know the L
House of
L now? Like, what's all this? And she's like, oh, Kandor was kind of rough, like I want to blow off some steam, we're having fun, everything's fine. And what I was alluding to earlier actually is that the one casualty of us missing last week and doing those books next week is that apparently in Superman Unlimited last week, Lois found out that Tomorrow Man was John, because that's just out in the open here. So we'll find out what happened there next week. But yeah, that was the thing I was getting at earlier. Yeah, I mean, Thunder Girl's also there, hanging out with Connor and John and Kara.
Yeah, because part of the reign of the Superboys was introducing, you know, what was it, Thunder Boy or Thunder Kid, right? And now she's the one that's left. So I do like that, you know, that helps that Campbell had written that. So at least there's some through lines there. But I will say this, Campbell writes a better Superboy Prime than Williamson does. Because when Prime shows up and just the self-referential type stuff that is happening here, you know, where he's like, oh yeah, this is a Sophie Campbell era, which means we can sit down and talk about our feelings. She wrote you kind of out of character, in my opinion, right? Directly talking to Connor, who was written out of character. I'm reading this and going like, this does not sound like the Connor that we were even getting early on in Campbell's Supergirl.
It also doesn't look at anything like him either. Like Dan Mora draws him like so, like he looks way older here for a star. He looks like he's 25 here as opposed to like 15.
Yeah, he looks older than John, right? Which is kind of a problem. And then the other thing is he looks more like he looks more like Superboy than Superboy does. I was going to say, should he be older than John? But then I guess because John left and came back aged up, maybe technically not. It's hard to say, I suppose. Because I gotta think that Supergirl and John are both about college age, you would think. Where that means that Connor's got to be a little bit step up down, where he could still be on the Teen Titans. You know, so a little bit younger. You would think.
It's murky because I still think him as being older because he's been around longer. So it's hard to say.
Yeah.
I do think a Supergirl's still been a little bit older than John, though.
Yeah.
You know, for whatever reason.
For sure.
But
I did like all of that, you know.
I mean, I you know, them hanging out was kind of a nice, just breath of fresh air. They seem to be playing a Mario Kart knockoff, so fair enough. I did think that, like, seeing Dan Mora draw Supergirl made me like, oh man, like, Sophie Campbell's art's not bad by any means, but it's got a very cartoony look to it, and I kind of wish that someone like Dan Mora was doing the art in that book to make it look more like this, but hey, that's what it is. Superboy Prime shows up. Connor's not happy. Connor hates his guts, which finally something Connor, Kent, and me agree on.
To be fair, he did kill him, and telling him to let that go. And Superboy Prime's like, yeah, everybody dies in comics. You'll come back like you came back. we're fine now. You know, like let Connor be mad. Don't let them fight, right? Because those two get into it. But still, them being mad at Connor for being mad at the guy that killed him, I thought was a little bit much.
Yeah, well, they start fighting. Kara calls Crypto to come and help, and Crypto leaves a pet mission that he's on to come and help, and that just kind of ends on a bit of a funny cliffhanger. Which, you know, I'm sure that'll, the tension between these two, I'm sure, will continue to rise in the crossover. So that's fine, and Kara does mention that she's going to help with or someone else, they're going to help with the Caldera stuff. I think Superboy Prime mentions it, which does lead us nicely into that final part of the issue, which is the part written by Dan Slott, which is actually paying off more of the actual Superman Unlimited stuff, which is effectively that the King here is with his like head knight and his green armor, and basically talking about what they're going to do, and he's frustrated because all the holograms in this new fortress that he's made with the sun crystal are all like, hey, you're not a member of the House of El, we shouldn't be talking to you. He's like, damn it, this is my fortress.
Yep. And then he has his head knight come in and is like, oh, you have a way with this technology, can you come and help? And I was like,
little tease
that's curious.
Yeah, it does a little bit of a recap as well, just in case you've not been reading Superman Unlimited, which I guess makes sense, because since it's a milestone issue and it's leading into a crossover, it makes sense to kind of recap a little bit of the stuff that's been happening. But the main thing here is that basically they get a report that the lab in Smallville that's working with their kryptonite has turned cancerous or deadly to humans, and they're like, shit, all of our kryptonite is only supposed to hurt Kryptonians. That's a problem. And to be fair to the King here, he's like, oh, we have to put a bullet in, we have to recall everything that's similar to that type of kryptonite, we have to take care of this, and if this means we can't sell kryptonite anymore, we just won't. We will use the technology we've found to try and make money that way. Caldera will continue to prosper, I guarantee it, but we're not going to hurt people to do it. So it's actually comes across as a little bit more of a decent human being than otherwise I might have thought he was before this point.
Yeah, because up in Unlimited, we've seen signs of him where he will do what is necessary to keep Al Caldera nice, right? Like, and I like that the recap page has a brief history of that, right? That they were, the conquistadors came and they've been subjugated ever since because of the mines, right? And then it was taken over by pirates from Corto Maltese for a while, and then it's not until Superman brought this big chunk of Krypton, right, that the King was working on as a miner, and he's the one that pulled Superman from the, like, so there's this very blue collar ethic to him. So when you find out that this stuff is making me feel sick, instead of him being like, oh, this is going to affect the bottom line, we got to get out there, he's like, no, if it's making people sick, then we'll do other things. This is our way, right? This is what we do as El Caldero. And only for that to get upended by his lead knight, which I thought was like, oh man, finally a nuanced character in comics like this that you can kind of root for. And it's like, oh no, he's being overthrown.
Yeah, the lead knight starts fighting him and basically forces a mask that's made out of pure kryptonite onto his face, and he's like, what are you doing? This will poison me, what are you doing? And if you pay attention to that mask, you'll notice a symbol on the forehead, which kind of teases the reveal that's about to happen. And to be honest, even before this page, I actually kind of was like, oh wait, I know who the villain in the crossover is, so I've got a pretty good feeling I know who this guy actually is.
It was the way that he knew how to deal with the Kryptonian crystals, where I was like, oh, that's Zod. That's why he's wearing a mask. And then as it kept going, I was like, okay, well maybe, no. And then I saw the Zod symbol on the mask. I was like, oh, here he is. And to give Slott credit, it happens on that page, right? When he goes to take off the mask, and then you turn the page and it's Zod, which a great way to reintroduce him.
Yeah, I mean, it teases it a few panels before it actually reveals it on the page turn, and he's like, "Hey, this name actually translates more directly to Drew Zod, so I'll get on your knee and to say kneel before Zod, and they all say kneel before Zod, and that's kind of your big ending." So, it's a good tease getting into the event. I actually kind of like in that last page. It looks It looks a lot like the Nightwing outfit with the green symbol on that last page.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of cool, given that Nightwing's kind of based on Kryptonian naming a little bit. But hey, yeah. So I like the setup for the event. I'm down with Zod being a big deal. I'm a little bit worried that Superman Returning is going to be too handcuffed to this young Clark Kent tagging along and whatever other bullshit that Williamson's thought up for all this.
Here's my question with Zod is he doesn't have any powers, so the kryptonite doesn't seem to affect him.
For now,
right?
Yeah.
So is this just gonna... What is he doing that necessitates the entire super family? Right? Because it seems like Superman can just come through.
I mean, he's got the army of... He's got the army of Caldera, and they have unlimited kryptonite. Okay. So I feel like that's a pretty formidable force, actually, when you think about it.
Maybe.
And he's also a very strategic guy, right? He is literally a general, and it's probably the most interesting thing about this is that a Zod without powers is going to use all the other skills that he has and the power that he's amassed here by taking over Caldera to take on the super family. I actually think is quite interesting. It's kind of like I don't know, I'm trying to think of it, like a poor Lex Luthor trying to somehow still be a threat, or I don't know, like pick a villain who's got a straightforward superpower that the superpower is taken away, but they're still a threat. Like, that's kind of what this is. It kind of goes back to something that I always say about Zod, is that without the powers, he was still this very intimidating, smart, malicious guy. So the idea that this crossover potentially is going to show him at his best in that sense, but and still be effective, I think it's the most exciting thing about it, assuming they pay it all off and it capitalizes on it. Obviously, we have 4 writers doing different issues as part of this event, so the quality is likely going to be all over the place. It's going to be hard for it not to be, but I'm hoping that if this is going to be mostly tied to the Caldera stuff, that maybe Dan Slott's the one who's actually kind of maybe spearheading the overall direction of it. But we'll see, I guess. We'll see.
Yeah. I'm just thinking that they hit Superman with kryptonite, he goes gold, he gets supercharged for 2 minutes, beats the absolute piss out of Zod, and then brings them in to strikers, and then locks them up. That's how I would handle it if I'm Superman. So we'll see what Zod's been laying in wait and doing. But yeah.
I'm sure he's got some things thought out, and who knows, maybe that gold thing's not even going to be a thing anymore. Maybe the KO Omega energies burned that out of him.
Wiped it out. Yeah, maybe.
Who's to say? I mean, hell, maybe when Superman gets back, he'll be powerless for a while because he's been in time stream for however long.
Well, because I'm just thinking too that when he does turn gold, he's powerless for a little bit afterwards, and then that definitely gives after he transformed from gold, when he gets supercharged, right? It burns out his cells for a while, and then that makes Zod have the advantage, Yeah,
because correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure when he's powerless after the gold, he's still vulnerable to kryptonite.
Killable. Yeah. Well, is it kryptonite or he's just vulnerable to regular? Because that's how he got shot.
Well, I think he's vulnerable to regular stuff, but I'm saying I don't think he's immune to kryptonite when he's got no powers just because he's got no powers. I think he still would be hurt by kryptonite as well.
Okay, so that's a thing.
So if he swoops in his gold form, tries to beat up Zod, as soon as the gold powers wear off, if they're surrounded by kryptonite, Zod's fine, but he isn't. I think I could be wrong, but
yeah, I can't remember if he is vulnerable to kryptonite after the gold.
It's honestly
he's vulnerable.
It's possible they didn't establish whether or not he still feels the effects of the kryptonite in that time where he's got no powers after the gold has worn off. We don't actually. Maybe we just don't know that, but. Maybe that'll come into play. I don't know. But
yeah. But regardless, I was very excited for the Zod reveal. Because again, having the inkling, but still getting that fun surprise when he takes off the mask. And it's him. And you're just like, oh, okay. And then we get a good kneel before Zod.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the wrap up to the current action arc was fine. Nothing special. Just kind of did what it needed to.
Yeah.
The Supergirl interacting with the Super Family, I thought was a fun little bit. I really liked the setup to the Zod stuff at the end. The stuff with the Superboy and the time stream meeting Superman and seeing a lot of the future was absolute trash. So, you know, it's going to be hard to rate this because it's kind of all over the place as far as my feelings.
Yeah.
We've got okay, trash, pretty good, oh, excellent at the end. So I don't know how to rate that, but and obviously as well, we got at least 4 different artists, maybe more, across all these sections. So, and some of it's very good,
A lot,
but obviously it's very different as you go through it. But
let's see, you have Snook, Mora, Sampier, and Meyer are the 4 that are listed here. So the art was never the problem.
No,
even the Snook stuff that pops up in the Whistle Stop tour, it all looks good. Like that page where he sees the Daily Planet stuff almost could be like, you remove all the speech bubbles and it's almost like a good piece of Superman art, right? With Clark sitting at the desk, him doing the helicopter save sequence with Lois and Jimmy, you know, the rest of the Daily Planet stuff around him. It looks great. You know, the context of which that we see it, not so much. And then same with Patridge's art, where it's all really good. It's been great. It's just tied to a story that we're just kind of run out of steam on.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, as far as these issues go, there's enough stuff in here, and like all the stories were a bit more related to each other than they usually are, which I guess does feel coherent getting into a crossover. It's just that one part of it was actively really bad to me, which is a shame. But we'll see what this crossover is actually like week to week, because that's the one cool thing, is that it's basically going to be a weekly thing because of the way it's spread out through all the books. Once it kicks off, starting with Supergirl, I believe is the first one of the bunch. But all right, what are you giving Action Comics 1100?
So as you said, it is weird to rate because the art is high, and you know, I would really say 2.5 out of the stories are pretty good. But that said, I don't think you can overcome that, and it's about a 7.
I actually already wrote down my score and I put down a 7, so I wasn't planning on agreeing with you this time.
I adjusted it from a 7.5 when I said, you know, 2.5 of the stories.
I'd already written it down. I wrote it down first so that it was locked in, and there it is. All right. That's Action Comics 1100. We'll see how this Zod crossover pans out in the coming weeks. All right, cool. Superman issue 40, legacy number 883. Joshua Williamson writing with Dan Mora on art. And no, thank you, Matt. You read this. You can take it away.
Yeah, so we're done with prime time. It even says, instead of saying like part 5 of 5, it says the end. And Manchester Black's been given reform through the meta powers of Superboy Prime, and they start tripping through Elseworlds because Manchester Black's like, well, what if we reboot, this? He's like, I hung out with Superman quite a bit. You have to respect him even if he's a dweeb. He's like, so maybe we'll have the Rocket take out the Kents, or Joker kill Batman, or if Wonder Woman became a warrior of a different kind. And Prime just looks at him and goes, those are called Elseworlds, you ass. So again, the attitude coming through here is good. But yeah, so we get them tripping through continuity, and Superboy Prime ends up essentially manifesting through the comic books in the comic book shop that he works at because of this meta aspect that Manchester Black has tapped into. And so Witchfire comes to check in looking for him because of their, she had used him on their date and stuff. So when he manifests, Manchester Black also manifests, but he ends up manifesting like this thing of a living speech bubble that starts to fight Superboy Prime. 1 second. Allergies right now. So I had a dry throat. I had to clear it out. But yeah, so these speech bubbles essentially start getting big, and he gets attacked by essentially onomatopoeia, which looks really good because this is Dan Mora art, right? So regardless of what's happening in the story, it looks fantastic. And this big living pow hits him, and then a Thum. And Manchester Black just starts beating the piss out of Superboy Prime. And Superboy Prime picks up one of the banker boxes of comics in the shop and throws it at Manchester Black, who then proceeds to say how much he hates comics. And then Superboy Prime ends up essentially giving like a speech about how he is and what he went through and how he doesn't want to be that anymore. And that no matter what Manchester Black does, he knows who he is. And, you know, he says, you know, you're right, I'll never be Superman. I'll never be as good as him. And it hurts to say that. But you know what? That's okay. I'm still me. So it's a bit cheesy, but Superman is always a little bit cheesy. So that's a good message for it. And then it gets to a spot that Pete would really hate because it gets super meta where Manchester Black starts hitting him with like the big like sound effect noises to where Superboy Prime starts to yell, oh, okay, I have this, it's called continuity vision. And you want to know what's at the edge of the universe? Read my word balloon. So it gets a little bit too meta for its own good. So again, it's Williamson doing things where you're like, oh, this is working. And then he takes it to 12 where he just didn't need to be. And then Superboy Prime ends up hitting him with the continuity vision, which there's a bunch of different things from the recent comics, going as far back as Death of the Family, it looks like, and even some of the 90s stuff. But most of it is things that have happened since Rebirth. And he says it's prime time, and he hits him with what looks like a Crisis on Infinite Earths. Like, you know, like the different Earths that are going through.
Okay, yeah, I can picture the visual.
And yes, and it ends up with Manchester Black on the ground saying, "Oh, reboots, crisis, relaunches, crisis, retcons, crisis, rebirth, too much continuity," and that's how he takes out Manchester Black. He hits him with continuity, and it's just like, oh man, Williamson, you almost had me, because that speech that Superboy Prime gives of that he is worthy of a second chance, because Superman would give him that second chance. And yeah, so he ends up on the Watchtower after this, and he's meeting with because it says it takes place before Justice League Unlimited 18. So it says it there that they throw Manchester Black into the Phantom Zone prison because he got hit with so much continuity. He knows all their secrets now, right? He tapped into the metaverse. He knows everything about them the way that Superboy Prime does. And Superboy feels like a failure because that was the one thing that he couldn't do, right? Is let Manchester Black know all of this. He goes back to the comic book store. The guys that work there are talking about how, you know, I can't believe this all happened here. This is the stuff that we read about, right? And he shows up and apologizes. They tell him he still has a job if he wants one. He goes, you know, your secret's safe with us. So now Superboy Prime's like, oh, these guys are my supporting cast. This is great. And Witchfire shows up. They had agreed to go on a date because, you know, she likes his vibe. She likes who he is. Yeah, he gets a second chance. And they sit there and she tells him, you know, that with every opportunity, every month of comics is a new opportunity, you know, really every week, depending on the shipping schedule. So, hey, this is your second chance. And they fist bump to Wednesdays, and they go to start helping clean up the comic book store. So that's where you think it's over, because, right, it says, you know, the end. Nope. There's a big thing of Superman's logo. Superboy Prime pops in, starts, you know, breaking down their adventure, and Kara shows up, and they end up setting up the, you know, the game night that we had just seen in Action Comics 1100, down to the page that Dan Mora, because remember it is Dan Mora art, down to the fight that's happening in the apartment, and then it teases, you know, in the Kingdom of Zod is upon us. So yeah, so again, plays with the meta stuff a little bit fun at the end. So Williamson does take it too far, shows that he is capable of dialing it back. But yeah, all I could think of reading this is how much you would not be liking it, because it gets a little bit too cutesy with all of the self-referential nostalgia pops, as you call it. But in a way, where in Action Comics with Wade, there's no like heft to him. here at least there's the whole moral of Superboy Prime. So
Matt's having a breakdown. Don't worry about it, everyone.
Not a breakdown. Again, it's the allergies and my throat's dry. So all the talking I'm doing, it's just making it worse. And I'm trying to fight through. So I guess that's my sign to rate this. Where the art from Mora, fantastic. The story is up and down. 7.5.
All right, 7.5 on Superman. Which will take us on to The Flash, issue 35, legacy number 835, Ryan North writing with Gavin Guidry on the R. So, last issue left off on a cliffhanger where basically Wally ran into Heatwave being up to something, causing a bunch of steam. Turns out what he's actually doing, after a quick bit of fighting, kind of stops, because Heatwave just wants to explain, because he doesn't think he's doing anything illegal actually here. Is that he's actually just trying to salvage from an old ship. He basically did some research and pinpointed where this famous ship went down, and he's salvaging it, and under maritime law, that's actually fair game. So Wally goes and speed reads some maritime law books and says, okay, technically you might be right, except some important ships are classed as historical, and therefore you can't just salvage them. So you're actually kind of still crossing a line here, which really upsets Heatwave. But after a quick bit of, dodging some flames and whatnot, he's like, look, go report it in, sell your story of how you found it, you can make some money off it, but this doesn't need to be a whole thing, right? And I appreciated that Wally kind of, in his narration said, look, the thing about being a superhero or a vigilante is you get to sometimes make these judgment calls of he thought he was doing the right thing kinda here. He didn't think he was breaking any rules, so I'm not going to be particularly strict about it as long as he agrees to let it go. And it seems to have worked. But that's your action sequence at the start, which is a fun little sequence. It almost kind of feels like, though, that it was just kind of there because, we had to have an action sequence because the rest of the issue is not going to really be very actiony. So we just wanted to have some fun stuff at the start. And that just gets out of the system.
And I do like that it boils down to Wally just going maritime law, right? That's how he goes about it. But I do like that Heatwave is just like, all right, I was trying to do something that wasn't illegal, but he did it very illegally, but the way that Wally counters it by go sell your story and about what you did. And, so again, it's Wally's relationship with the Rogues. That's why he's my favorite Flash, right? Yeah. He just doesn't punch him out, take him to Iron Heights.
Yeah.
He hears him out and gives him he gives him an alternative.
Heatwave's not his favorite rogue, though, as he points out in his narration. He's not supposed to have a favorite, but he kind of does. He likes the trickster. Yeah. So, just good bit
his boots are so cool.
Yeah, just a good bit of flavor there, I thought. The rest of the issue, though, is more about him developing this whole Flash insight perception that he's got going. And he basically, he's like, okay, I got something wrong with the weather because a heat wave kind of interfered with stuff, and I couldn't have factored that in. So as long as I have an up-to-date set of data about the city, I can predict things a few seconds into the future. So we get this cool 2-page layout where it's like the silhouette of the Flash, and inside his body is all the panels of just different things around the city. And it's this idea that he's just running around in a minute, going around everywhere, seeing what people are doing in public spaces, and then using that to be able to predict things. And he basically just gives all his findings to Linda when she gets home with the kids, and basically shows that he can predict everything she's going to say, right down to some random words that he says, hey, try and say some stuff to me that are just random that you would never normally say. And she throws out bioluminescence at him, and he says it at the same time. So I thought she was going to get annoyed at this, but then he's like, hey, come with me, let's see it in action. And they basically stop a bank robbery by Captain Boomerang by him just setting up like slapstick pratfalls for when Boomerang jumps in the window. Yeah, he's like, here's some pencils to make him slip. Here's a chair that someone can just push into him. Here's like some scissors that will fly out of someone's hand and bounce off the wall into his rear end. Like, it's all very comical. It's all very fun. And, I did enjoy these pages, actually. They're just very lighthearted.
Yeah. Yes, and that's what I like, that it is so lighthearted, because this flashes of insight stuff, I'm still not 100% sold on. Because
I agree.
almost it's giving him a little bit too much power. But I feel like there's going to be a consequence to this, whether it's like he gets so wrapped up in doing it, he's not living in the moment because he's too focused on the future. Which, if that's the case, all well and fine. But the fact that he seems to be so keyed into, oh, you got to go do another lap, oh, and then where it leaves off on too, of it seems like him doing this has made Central City run more efficiently. Which I don't know if you'd ever read this book by Charles Soule called Strange Attractors, where essentially what Wally does here is the point of that book, where if you ever had one of those days where everything goes right, it's because there is a person that has been doing all these little things to make it that everything works the way that it's supposed to. And this reminded me of that a lot. Just in this case, it's done with super speed instead of, I forget what Soul had done in that makes the person the chosen to go do all this. But Wally's doing all these things at super speed and it's making everybody's life better. But there's got to be a cost, right? Like,
yeah.
So, yeah, I just hope it doesn't get too wrapped up on him doing these flashes of insights and, well,
I mean, I think
ceases to be like a...
It's going to be a focus for sure for a bit, but I do expect that there will be a reason why he doesn't just have it constantly happening forever, because otherwise it'd be too much of a... Well, first, it would be too much of a plot hole to constantly deal with. Why isn't he predicting this little thing in the future? Why is he predicting this little thing in the future? So I'm sure there'll be something to kind of put a stop to it, or at least highly limit it so that he can only use it under certain circumstances or something like that. Whatever that ends up being. But I did appreciate that Linda seemed genuinely enthusiastic about it and like enjoyed the little tricks that he pulled to make sure, the kids don't have to chase their ball onto the road because I put this rock in the way. And she's like, you could have just kicked the ball back. You didn't have to actually do a fancy little time maneuver. But he's like, hey, I'm doing really well here, but I want to scale this up. And she's like, what do you mean scale it up? Like, what's bigger than making sure the whole city runs without incidents? And then the last page is just him speeding to Metropolis. So that's what we're doing next issue, is he's going to try and do some of this in Metropolis. So we'll see how that goes. And I assume we might get a Superman appearance just because, well, why wouldn't we?
Yeah. Which, the idea of Gavin Guidry drawing Superman, because this super silver AG, clean line, it's kind of perfect for that. So that's very exciting. I know, if, let's say he's successful in Metropolis, I feel the one city that could break Wally is Gotham. Yeah. He's just like, there's too much going on. I cannot. And Batman goes, yeah, that's why I don't try. I just show up.
Yeah. Imagine if he tried to do the word thing with Joker and it's like, oh, well, predict what Joker's going to say, and then Joker just I don't know, shoots a seal or something instead.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Guidry's art is so good throughout this. Just the way that that he draws the action, right, happening, and then he draws it again, but it's a little bit different. Right, the way that Boomerang jumps through the window in the flashes of insight, and then the way that he jumps through and slips, right? You can tell it's the same moment, just different. And again, we've talked about the Silver AG kind of aspect to it, and it fits the tone that North is doing so well.
It's very Silver Agey, but then you've got that 2-page spread where it's all his body in silhouette and all the panels are inside that silhouette, which is that feels super modern in a way, actually. But so it really pops compared to all the other pages where it feels like, oh no, this is really getting across this idea of him embodying the entire city. I mean, literally in the sense of the way the art does it. Yeah. So I think the art's been really consistent in this book. I'm so glad there's been no fill-ins. There's been no issues where a second artist has been doing half the pages. It's been very consistent so far in this run, and that pleases me greatly. So, I think, honestly, the only critique I could really give it is that it does kind of feel like the Heatwave stuff is just so they could have some action and fighting in the first chunk of the issue, so there was some in the issue at all. But it's not that I didn't enjoy it, though. It was a fun little, short, effectively, before we get back to just doing the main plot. It just didn't really have that much to do with the rest of the plot, other than the fact that the cliffhanger last time kind of set it up. But, it didn't feel like it really mattered all that much in the sense of, what the rest of the issue was about, which was really Wally developing this flashes of insight thing a little bit further and seeing where that goes. So yeah, curious to see where the brick walls end up being, where he struggles to either get past out of something or it straight up blows up in his face in some way where, because he makes the wrong prediction, he actually makes something worse, which is probably the way it's going to go, and that's why he'll stop doing it, at least excessively. And unless the chips are down so much that, well, they might as well try, because it's like a last-ditch effort kind of thing. But, no. And I loved, the voice for Wally here I really like. I loved that little inner debate about who the best rogue is and should he have a favourite.
Yeah.
And this is why he has a favourite, and so on. Because I love the idea of him asking Batman, hey, who's your favourite villain that you have to fight? And Batman just been like, what do you mean my favourite? I don't have a favourite.
Yeah.
They're all mentally disturbed. Why would I have a favourite?
You know what, though? I could see him saying, like, one of the smaller ones because they get him, like, excited. You know what I mean? Like, they know, like, he knows Killer Croc's not going to go on a mass murdering spree.
Yeah.
So it's easier to handle Croc.
Well, it depends what version of Croc we're talking about, because Croc does sometimes just eat people, right?
He does, but that's when he's more animalistic, and that's like, I feel like Bruce wouldn't hold that against Wayland.
I just feel like that was a weird example to give for the one who won't go on a murderous rampage, Killer Croc.
Well, when I say murderous rampage, I'm talking like Joker or Two-Face, where there's this big elaborate plan. Now I'm talking, it's more manageable.
Obviously, if he's still counting Catwoman, then that's the easy answer, because he's having sex with her. So I mean, obviously she's his favorite. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. But still, the equivalent to Trickster would be like, I don't know, like saying Riddler's his favorite, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, he has worked with Riddler. He's worked with Harvey. He's worked with Clayface, right? So one of those, not Harvey, but I feel like Clayface or Riddler probably in that. Yeah.
But no, solid issue of Flash. Reads really well. I'm always, ever since this run started, I've been having a very pleasant time with each issue. It's very consistent. There's never like a downer issue or an issue that made me go, oh, maybe this is a bit more rocky. Nope, very consistent. So what are you giving the Flash, Matt?
I'm going to give this an 8.5.
I think this is the first time I'm going to slightly disagree and say just a flat 8. Had a great time.
There you go.
But I wouldn't say it's, into special territory though, but it's a really solid, consistent book. So
yeah,
nice.
it's a joy to read. It's a nice breakup when you're sitting there reading through comics and you get to the Flash. You're like, oh, this is light and breezy, and I feel like that counts.
All right. Green Lantern issue 37, legacy number 604, Jeremy Adams writing with Xermánico on the art. So the Green Lantern books have definitely been a bit more rocky, more so core, which is why I dropped core from my my reading list. But Green Lantern here does have some fun stuff here. Every time it cuts to Hal and what the people in space are doing, which is admittedly like one page in this issue, I'm like, this is... I barely remember what they're doing here. But the...
One of y'all skip.
Yeah.
Right? Like
all the ongoing stuff, though, with Kyle and Odyssey, I'm generally having fun with. And here, this idea that Odyssey starts getting like hate comments for her like a dress that she wore at the premiere or the gala event, and Kyle getting obsessed with responding to trolls on the internet to the point where he's up for 14 hours just angrily like trying to argue with them, and then like that just kind of ruining his day because he ends up having a breakfast date with Jade, but he's sleepy because he's been up all night arguing with trolls, and then just the gimmick of it being that the troll that threatens to come and actually like kidnap Odyssey and does so. So Kyle has to go off and help her, and Jade comes with, ends up being an actual troll. It's a troll that is an internet troll because it feeds off the negative energy that it creates to be a troll. Yep. So it's basically like an energy vampire from What We Do in the Shadows, but more specifically for creating rage. And I thought that was quite funny and quite inspired, and I had a good time reading all this. This was all very amusing to me. So...
The part that made me really giggle was after the 14 hours, Odyssey's asleep. Kyle's been up on the phone arguing. And he goes, it might be the best I stay off the phone for a bit. And she looks at it and she goes, there's an I Hate Odyssey club now? So, like, he made a bad situation so much worse.
That's why they say
and then tries to get out of it, but like...
Yeah, it's why they say don't feed the trolls. That's it. It just gets worse.
Yep.
I did like, though, when he meets up with Jade and he's explaining what's going on. She mentions, you can't talk to these people. I mean, there's a I Hate the Justice Society group online. And he's like, what? I mean, I get the Titans, maybe, but the Justice Society? Like, I'd give me a pop.
We can call it in, pay them a visit. And he goes, see, it's already working. And I was like, oh, man, I need to learn from this story. Right? Because I'm very much Kyle on this. Where we're like, no, they need to know that they're wrong. And it's just like, you're playing into their hands, man.
I can't come to dinner. Someone is wrong on the internet, and I must deal with it right now.
Yep. You need to know.
The other thing here, though, is that apparently Agents of Shade are wanting some of these aliens that Kyle's rounded up, so they teased that in this issue. So that's there in the middle. Then obviously eventually Odyssey ends up being the one who gets mad and pulls out Excalibur to slice up the demon, or the troll, I should say.
The troll.
And to the point where she straight up decapitates him. And there's a great moment here where Kyle and Jade are like, hey, how did you know that wouldn't kill him? And she's like, I didn't. And they both just give this shocked look, like, and she's like, look, I'm not a superhero. I don't mind if I kill him. He deserved it. Like, he had it coming. Right. So it's like, okay.
Sucker punched me.
There's a lot to unpack here. We're going to have to deal with this later, but in the meantime, we have to deal with this troll head that we've still got here that's talking to us. So
Xermánico's expression on Jade there is horrified. And on Kyle, it's not so much horrified, but it's definitely concerned.
Yeah.
And it shows the strength of Xermánico to be able to pull that off on that one panel, to those reactions.
Yeah. Also, I've learned don't trash Odyssey's dress that she wore at the premiere, because she might decapitate you. So
yes,
that's fun. Anyway, so at the end of the issue, when they're holding this head, the character sent by Agent Frank from Shade is Major Conflict shows up at the end.
Major Force.
Oh, Major Force, sorry. It says Major Conflict at the bottom, so I don't remember his name.
Because it's a play. Yeah. Now, Kyle has a history with Major Force, correct?
That sounds familiar. Yeah. I need to read the original Kyle run at some point.
Okay. So I only know this because this is like a Green Lantern trivia piece. Oh. Is that Major Force is the character responsible for fridging Kyle's girlfriend.
Oh, okay. Well, now I really need to read all the original fridging stuff. Oh, damn. This is proper comic book history I'm missing out on here.
I do feel like Jeremy Adams here is going to try to not reclaim the fridging, but make it not, there's going to be him working through that for Kyle having some agency now and getting to not undo it necessarily, but try to repair it, because that's become like, again, footnote.
I don't know if he can, because it's not Kyle not having agency is not the problem. It's the woman who was fridged not having agency is the problem.
Right. But I feel like, why bring this up at this point? And I just feel like Adams is on thin ice here with this. This is a very topic that he just didn't need to address, right? We could have just moved on.
Well, the same reason why they ever bring a character back, because it's just someone prominent from their past, so there can be some conflict, and we'll move on. I don't know if this is like, I'm sure they might bring it up, like obviously at some point Odyssey's going to say, why do you hate him so much? And it's like, oh well, there was this fridge incident. We're going to have to bring it up that way. But I don't know. I mean, maybe he'll threaten Jade or something, but obviously Jade can fend for herself quite easily. Yeah. So it's interesting, but I will say this though, this whole idea of Agents of Shade all of a sudden like wanting to get these aliens from themselves was definitely an interesting swerve. I'm like, okay, I guess that's the thing in this book now. But I mean, most of the thing that I'm enjoying in this Green Lantern arc right now is just kind of the episodic stuff with Kyle and Odyssey, like living in LA and like the weird enemies they're encountering. none of the serialized stuff has really done that much so far, I would say. But I'm also enjoying Kyle and Jade rekindling as well. That's been fairly nice and pleasant to read.
Yeah, I was hoping for a follow-up of the Big Billy Burger characters that have come to life and are causing chaos. And the fact that we didn't get to that means that, that's the serialized stuff that's to come, I'm sure.
Yeah, because we had the plastic surgery guy who was doing awful things, who was actually an alien. We had like we've had this online troll. We had the food guys. Like we've had like some interesting weird twists on some old ideas. I think in most of the issues this arc, which I've been enjoying. Yeah. It's not perfect by any means, but I will say this though: Xermánico on art was a big step up from the more all over the place, multiple artists that we've been kind of dealing with for a couple of the last issues. So I was pleased to have a good artist do the entire book. That was very nice. So no complaints with that, which is good. And it sold some of those moments, like the frustration of like talking to the internet trolls, or the ending when they're shocked at Odyssey's answer about not knowing if she'd killed the guy or not. That stuff's all good fun.
The banter and the characterization really go far.
Yeah,
because it makes it fun to read. Like, this is a book that I know I'm going to at least have fun with.
It's a book that I'm reading more for the character stuff than I am the plot. The plot's kind of whatever for the most part, other than just some fun takes on like stuff like internet trolls. But we'll see if this shade stuff amounts to much. Maybe it is all just about getting the major there to like have some conflict with Kyle, and that's all it's going to be. But we'll see. But all right, what are you giving Green Lantern, Matt?
I give this a 7.5.
I think I'll say flats. Well, the art's quite good, so maybe 7.5 sounds right. 7.5 sounds right. Plus the troll stuff was quite funny, so there you go. The Peril of the Brutal Dark, an Ezra Cain mystery, issue 6. Chris Condon writing with Jacob Phillips on the art. So yeah, this is the final issue. It's pretty straightforward, all things considered. Ezra's girlfriend wants to write the story. She grabs the friendly cop to go and like sort of look at the lights in the sky. But most of this issue is the extended action set piece of Ezra in the little biplane being chased by the mechanical Nazis that are coming after him in the sky, and his dodging, his diving. One of the big highlights of all this is when one of the automatons jumps onto the spire of the Empire State Building and then jumps back at him on the biplane. It's like he does it to reorientate himself, and then tries to leap at Ezra. All this is just super fun. It's probably going to be a relatively quick discussion because ultimately, it's all just beautiful art and action that's really well paced.
Yeah, and then in typical Nazi fashion, they get taken out by their own device because they don't respect the power of it.
Yeah, it's basically the melting faces from the end Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah, it's basically once they start banging the anvil, it basically just incinerates everything around it, including the Zeppelin. So that because you actually get a cool little bit at the end of it where you just see this one little plop into the water, and the implication is it's just the anvil because it's the only thing that survived from the Zeppelin is the anvil that's just fell into the water. And you see them get boxing up after the fact, Ezra and whoever, the museum guy maybe probably. Honestly,
so they reroute the. Go ahead.
I was gonna say my favorite thing about this whole thing is just the sense of scale and the sense of like we're fighting above all the buildings in New York, and that's the idea of like one of the androids grabbing onto the spire and jumping off of it and just weaving in and around of it, and then whenever there's a panel looking up and seeing it take place above the buildings, I don't know, there's just a sense of like where the fight is happening that felt really cool to me. That just I always felt that sense of place as well as that sense of the pacing, so it was just riveting to read because of that.
Yeah. Well, and also as this is all going down, like, Ezra is doing his part here, but it is, again, the villain's undoing is their own, which I also like because, he's shooting, he takes out the big laser things, right? but they try to reroute the power. And even though one of the engineers is like, yeah, we probably shouldn't do that, they decide to go about it anyways. And then that leads to the guy hitting the hammer, where it seems like he gets possessed by the, by like the energy of Hephaestus, because he ends up with this big, huge beard, right? And he's like this big jack guy, and he hits the hammer,
and he can't stop hitting it. Yeah, he can't stop himself. Yeah. He just keeps hitting it now.
And that's what ends up bringing the Zeppelin down and stuff. And again, always to compare it to Indiana Jones, because it feels like that's in the DNA.
Also, right? Just to correct one small detail there, it doesn't bring the Zeppelin down. It just incinerates it in the sky. Like, there's nothing to come down.
Yes. Right. But it's like the whole thing with Indiana Jones, just like being there, right? And not necessarily like, yes, he has a hand in how things go, but he set the things in motion for them to play out that way. So again, I like that it pays homage to the kind of pulpiness there as well. And we get some of those great things where he is in this full, Hephaestus thing, swinging the hammer, which beforehand we'd seen him, it took two hands. When he takes this big, huge form, he has just one hand, and he's swinging the hammer around, and all the energy's going around. And that's what brings it,
Yeah.
And just the way that it's drawn is fantastic.
The leader's like hands like sort of burst on fire, and he's looking down at them, being like, "What the hell?" So yeah, it's very satisfying to see. And yeah, Ezra lands his plane in the water. His girlfriend and the copper there to help him out, and there's just some wrap up where he's talking to the museum guy about putting the anvil in a safe place and so on. He goes to talk to the wife of the guy who was missing in the first place, and he basically just says he was a good man. I was there when he died. He thought of you until the end. Very selfless. So it's just a nice sort of happy ending, and this woman's going to live with some relatives in a different state. And it's like, okay. And the final page is just Ezra going to see his girlfriend, and she's written an article about what's happened with the Brutal Dark. So because up until now, there's been kind of a cover story of like, oh, it was a training exercise in the sky. It wasn't anything dangerous or bad. It was nothing to worry about. But it seems like she's going to expose the truth, or at least whether or not people believe it's maybe another thing, because
But it's still putting it out there.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, so that page with the museum guy, I feel like this was the setting up the stories to come, because he talks about that someone is going around, or people are going around and collecting all these different artifacts.
Yeah.
And that it's because it's not just, weapons of war, they're weapons of humans, right? Humans will turn anything into a weapon.
Yeah, it's kind of setting up the idea that either more of the Brutal Dark could still exist, and they might try other things, so that could be a sequel, or just other groups entirely find different artifacts that are powerful that they can use in some way. The opportunities are kind of just open-ended for whatever they want to do. The only thing that kind of needs to stay is this idea of like a powerful artifact of some kind. Now, will there be any sequels? I have no idea. I don't know what they consider a success here for this type of book, or
we do get a byline at the end.
We do?
It says Ezra Cain will return in the Terror of the Black Pyramid 2027.
Oh, I did not see that. Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
so that's why that's the only reason I brought all that up. Yeah, so like they're doing that thing here where they're talking about all these other things and about these weapons of man, and that just basically like man will always find a way to make these technological horrors into something to use on each other, right? And he says, Nazis, fascists, imperialists, there are no borders to wickedness. It's in our nature, but then it's also in our nature to fight, which reminds me, there's someone I know in Washington who might want to speak with you, right? So like it sets up this whole thing here, like, this is just scratching the surface. And then knowing that this takes place before World War II, also in the meta context of like what's to come from there, it's up to the good people to push back where we can. And that's what Ezra.
I mean, honestly, this was obviously a tease for potential sequels, even without the line at the end saying that there was definitely going to be one. So I'm not surprised it's there. I'm happy to see it's confirmed, seemingly.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't even necessarily know if there's that much of a plan. Maybe there is like an overall story idea they've got in mind. But honestly, it feels like they could just keep doing these with any different type of artifact and just you know,
Yep.
each time they set it a year later, and that's basically all it is. And like, you know, they'll this time it's this group try to do this, or this time it's this group try to do this with this artifact, and he has to deal with it. Now, does this mean he's going to Egypt in the next story? Does it mean there's a pyramid somewhere else that we don't know about? Is it just the name of a group?
Yeah, I mean, Egypt. Yeah, we don't know. Because I would say that like the pyramids aren't unique just to Egypt. Those are the ones that we think of immediately. But, you know, other cultures. So it could literally be anywhere. But like you said, also, it could be a group, like the Brutal Dark was.
Yeah, it may not be a place or a thing, yeah. Or in the other pyramids, what we got? We got Mayans, they've got pyramids.
There's Mayan pyramids. You had some down in the Aztecs, right? Those are still same neck of the woods. Incans had something similar. All over Mesopotamia, there were pyramid structures.
Or maybe...
I don't know if they're actually called pyramids, but
or maybe this will be like that. The point of this is that a mysterious new pyramids appeared somewhere or been discovered somewhere. You know, maybe under the dirt or something, and that's where the mystery all comes from. I don't know. Yeah. But lots of potential for sure. For more Ezra Cain malarkey. So yeah, I guess we'll see what the sequel's like next year. But yeah, I do suspect this might do well in collected form. I can see it just kind of being an evergreen, like it's very easy to recommend, because I think it's going to be a very quick, easy read. If you want to sit down, just read all 6 issues in one go. I don't think it would be very hard to do that. So no,
not at all.
Yeah. Gorgeous is, I mean, it always has been. It's not a surprise that this was gorgeous, but having the entire like middle, not even I would say like half the issue is just a big action set piece in the sky, and have it being riveting from start to finish was just such a power move, right? It was just almost showing off.
Yeah, and the way that Condon and Phillips work together to make all that art and stuff flow, so you are reading it at a pace, right? So like, there's a lot of action going around. There's not a lot of words, but you're taking in everything that's going on, and then definitely it adds to that pulp action-y kind of style. Because I was literally like flipping through pages with excitement to see where this goes. So, but yeah, fantastic book. I'm sad that this is the end of this chapter, right? Because we're gonna have to wait a while before it comes back. But man, I
mean,
such a good one.
At least 5 months, 6 months. And that's assuming it hits in January, which it probably won't. It'll probably be, you know, whatever. But anyway. Well,
and we know they're working on a Gotham Central tie-in to Bad Seeds. So who knows what else they've got cooked up, this team. You know? So yeah.
All right, what are you giving Peril, the Brutal Dark, and Ezra Cain Mystery?
Being that not a lot happened, I wanted to give it the 9. However, being that this is just a closing chapter, I'm going to knock it down a little bit, make it 8.5.
I think I'm just going with the 9, but yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
It flowed so well. It was exciting to read. I had a great time. And it didn't try and overly complex it, but trying to do like another twist at the end or something like that. I think that would have just bogged it down. I think I'm glad that it kept it simple and let the thrills speak for itself. So, cool. Every month on Patreon, you can make me read a book of your choosing at one of the higher tiers. I got a couple to talk about today. First up, Gideon Falls, issue 17. We're really getting into the meat of this now, it feels like, because we follow some story in both Gideon Falls, this issue. We see some stuff with the small town, with Norton, who's now pretty much confirmed to be the younger brother or the older brother of the sheriff, and their dad, who seemingly is fighting off a possession by the entity from the Black Barn. In fact, one of the first things we get in this is him kind of in this red void, and the voice talking to him and try to convince him to like sort of like take control and let him out into the world. And it gets proper spooky, and we get what seems to be our first glimpse of what the entity at the center of the barn actually looks like, which I can only describe, and it's in very kind of like sort of, you know, it's not clear art, it's just kind of like red scratchy art on black, but I can only describe it as like a lot of mouths with a lots of rows of teeth at the top, and then lots and lots of like insect legs forming kind of a big mountain where all these mouths are at the top. It's very, very, you know, like Cthulhu, well, not Cthulhu, but like Lovecraftian or cosmic horror or something in that kind of vein is how I'd describe it. And then back in the city version, we've got Dr. Zoo with Fred the priest. They go back to Norton's place, and Fred's starting to remember some things, but they're like looking into stuff, and they're talking about the barn and whether or not it's real. It seems like it is. And Fred remembers being there. He's like, I think I was there. I think I came through the barn and I was in the small town. But when they're hanging out at Norton's place, two masked, or not even masked, but two shady individuals in shadows grab them, like chloroform them and kidnap both of them, right? Because Dr. Zoo sort of disappears off panel, and then Fred gets grabbed by someone from behind, and that's kind of where we leave a cliffhanger there. The reveal, though, later on in the issue, is that this is actually two priests working for the bishop who told Fred that he would be there to help him. And Fred's all confused because they wake up, he's got like a little room that he's in, he's dressed again as a priest, and when he comes out and he sees the bishop's like, hey Fred, and Fred's like, yeah, I was in the small town Gideon Falls and now I'm here, what's going on? He's like, yeah, that makes sense, that's where you were, and you have to go back. And then he also says something interesting, which is that when he sees Dr. Zoo, the bishop says, oh, Dr. Zoo, you look so young, but everything you told me is panning out to be true. So we're definitely in timey-wimey shenanigans here. And yes, it's kind of suggesting that when she is older, she's kind of the head of the group that's like trying to sort out all this stuff between all the Gideon Falls and all that, which was kind of teased in one of the other worlds that the other priest went to. So yeah, like it really starts to feel like a lot of this stuff is starting to click into place and coming together, and you understand how it's connecting to some extent between all the history that it's setting up and this lore of like the groups that have formed to try and take care of this. It's basically doing that sort of time travel thing where, one of the regular characters in the book is someone who's actually really important and like setting up stuff that helps fight all this stuff in the future. But because of timey-wimey stuff, some of these characters have already met her in the future, and they're like, hey, you're young now, and you're like not even aware of what you're doing yet, but you're going to become important. You're going to be like a big deal in fighting all this stuff. So that stuff was exciting. And then elsewhere back in the town, we had Norton and the sheriff lady kind of like basically having more of their awkward conversation, him saying, call me Norton, don't call me, whatever his name was to begin with, Daniel or something like that. And they're kind of like weirded out because Norton like sees the trash can and is like, oh wow, like there's something going on here, and he's sensing something, and he finds a nail in the bin, and it's like, oh, like he's back to his old ways, he's finding stuff, and she clearly thinks this is weird. But then they hear a scream, and it's coming from the room that their dad's in. So that's where it cuts to some of the other stuff with the other characters I already talked about. And when we come back, they go into the room and find that their dad has murdered a doctor. And the dad's looking at them kind of shocked and saying, I swear I didn't mean to. So perhaps implying that this was the entity inside him that did this. And now the dad's awake again and coherent. And now he can't explain why he seems to have just murdered a man. So that's the big cliffhanger the issue ends on. It's brutal. His hands are all covered in blood. And it feels like, how are they going to possibly explain this and not just arrest her dad for what he's just done? So it's a whole tangled mess for them to kind of deal with. But yeah, the idea that he's going to be this conduit for the entity is kind of a big deal and something they're going to have to really struggle with. The other big thing, though, is at the end of the plot with the other characters, after the bishop tells Fred you have to go back to the town Gideon Falls, they walk into a room with a big, I assume, like a interdimensional teleportation device or something. It's a big metal thing with a circle at the top. It's got like a pod in the center. There's some electrodes sticking out of it. So clearly we're doing proper science fiction here of this is a maybe not a ship per se. I don't know if it's going to like travel itself, but at the very least it's going to beam him to the other Gideon Falls dimension. So what happens when he's there with the others in the small town and he gets to talk to Norton and the sheriff again when he understands more of what's going on? that's definitely a curious thing. It's also worth mentioning, the bishop's got the red cap on, and it's only notable because red's such an important color in this book, where there'll be like lots of black and white and muted colors, and then there'll be like one bit of red popping somewhere, and it's always been such an important highlight whenever anything's red. So having him just with that little bit of red at the top really sticks out on an otherwise practically black and white page. You're borrowing some slight muted colors, so no, super interesting. And again, the blood in the last page also kind of does that as well, where that really pops against all the muted greens and blues of the hospital room. So no, I mean, obviously it's gorgeous throughout. I've been talking a lot about the popping reds and the way it's handled some of the art here, but no, the idea of like the bishop and Dr. Zoo from the future having these plans to try and solve all this stuff, and like, no, you have to go back to the town because there's a reason why you need to be there. So get going is kind of interesting, because it suggests maybe they'll give him more of an idea of what he needs to do next. Maybe they won't, but it seems like that's something they're going to do. And maybe the reason why he needs to be there is because the entity has found someone to possess, at least partially, even if he is fighting it back here or there. So maybe that's the point, is that he has to be there to fight the now possessed doctor / dad character. So great cliffhanger. This was great because, it felt like the last couple issues were really good, but there was kind of a frustration of like, okay, we've set up that they've switched places, and then there was like an issue or two that didn't pay off that cliffhanger yet, and then we got one of each. This was kind of nice that it gave us some of both, because I feel like, okay, everything's moving forward now. We're not waiting on one or the other anymore, and it felt like there was a good sense of momentum to this issue. So this was an easy 9 out of 10. Gideon Falls continues to be great. Art's gorgeous, story's picking up steam, and all of the mystique is starting to click into place in a way that feels satisfying. Not that everything's been explained by any stretch. There's definitely still more to learn. There's still more to do. But so far, so good. So that is Gideon Falls, issue 17. 9 out of 10, like I said. So, cool. The other Patreon book I'm going to talk about today is Adventures of the Outsiders, issue 37, which I did not have written down. I had to look down at the cover there.
Now I can pull up the wiki article and follow along.
Oh, good. I'm glad. So if you remember, last issue it ended with them getting on a cruise to travel down to California, where their new headquarters are going to be. This issue takes place in the cruise. I think next issue is probably going to be that as well. We're getting a two-parter on a cruise ship, which starts off with just some...
Oh my God, just like TV shows of the 80s.
Yeah, pretty much. But it starts off with just some character stuff and some fun banter with them enjoying the cruise ship. Halo enjoying lying by the pool with Katana. Rex is with Sapphire. And Looker is showing off by jumping off the big diving board into the pool. And, she's in her bikini. Everything's looking very impressive, and she's getting out of the pool and whipping her hair around. She's enjoying the attention, all the eyes on her, all that stuff. Now, I actually had like a weird thought as I was reading this. I'm like, see if the diving board on a pool on a ship was up high enough, wouldn't there be a problem if the ship's constantly moving that you could potentially like as you're falling through the air, if the ship's going quick enough, you might not hit the water?
Yeah, but there's the whole thing, because of how big it is, you don't feel it as much.
Sure. I just
right?
thought...
So if the high dive is high enough, absolutely. But if it's a regular diving board, maybe not. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this one looks like a good, like 25, 30 foot, just based on the art to me. But I mean, yeah, whatever.
That's too high for a cruise ship to me.
Yeah, it does feel quite high. Obviously, if it's only 5 foot off the water, you're not going to move that much. But I just, part of me thought, well, technically, once you're in the air, aren't you victim to the ship moving if it's moving fast enough? But regardless, maybe that's along the same lines of the logic of if you jump when the plane crashes, you'll be okay because you were in the air when the impact happened. Or if you jump when the elevator crashes to the bottom, you won't die, which is I think just a myth, but still.
Yes.
Anyway, so everyone's impressed, but when she's drying her hair, she gets annoyed because someone's I think it's Halo says, "Oh, you've started a trend," and she's like, "What do you mean?" And we see this other woman with blue hair do an even more impressive jump where she's doing all these somersaults in the air on the way down, and everyone's oohing and eyeing at her and saying, "Oh, that was impressive." And you just get this panel of Looker looking pissed off, like someone stole my limelight. I'm not happy about this. And I'm like, oh, this is a fun plot thread, actually. I'm kind of interested in like her being jealous because someone's outshining her, maybe, as time goes on. And she tries to make herself feel better. She grabs Black Lightning and I think Geoforce, who are jogging around the ship, and says, hey, you two can buy me lunch. Like, you know, it's an honor for you two, so let's go do that. And she's trying to like play the, you know, the, I don't know, the it girl or whatever. And the blue-haired girl walks past them, and both the guys sort of turn and look over their shoulder, almost like the jealous girlfriend meme in a sense. And they're both saying, oh, who is that woman, Brian? Oh, I don't know, but I could stand to see some more. And like the Looker just storms off being like, men, like just pissed off. So this is all set up for this. And then if that's not bad enough, the outsiders are all at dinner with the captain of the cruise ship. And like Looker's try to chat up the captain. And then this blue-haired woman comes in and sits down next to the captain. And immediately Looker's like thinking to herself, oh, maybe I'll just get a doggy bag. I don't want to be around this bitch. Like, it's actually kind of funny. Meanwhile, Halo's getting dressed up to go to the dance on the cruise ship. Although it's kind of sad for Katana, because Katana wanted to see a movie with her, so she's kind of left on her own and she looks kind of lonely. And it feels like Halo's hanging out with Looker instead. There's a little bit of a sad jealousy there. Not quite in, because Looker feels like more she's like a jealous teenager who's getting mad. Katana just feels sad that she's getting no one to hang out with, so you feel kind of sorry for her.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't bring her sword, so she can't talk to her sword.
However, once again on the dance floor, Looker's dancing with someone. I think it's the captain actually. And would you believe it, the blue-haired girl comes up and says, hey, I would like to cut in, and literally steals her dance partner away. So Looker just walks out, she's pissed off, and she tries to use her powers to telepathically read who this woman is and figure out what's going on. And much to her surprise, the blue-haired woman just telepathically blocks it and says, oh, you'll have to try better than that. These are my personal thoughts. And then almost immediately, a tentacle comes out the water and grabs Looker into the water over the deck. And it's like, wait, what? What's happening here? And everyone else is just sort of hanging out, and there starts to be like a bunch of whales outside the ship that kind of like block the ship. And then, presumably our blue-haired character has put on her costume, and she is the Marine Marauder, and she is controlling all the sea life. And she's here to steal all the valuables and hold all the passengers for ransom until she gets what she wants. The captain tries to send some of his men after her. That does not go well. She basically fires some electric eels at them and they get zapped, as you do.
Hell yeah.
But obviously the outsiders are like, well, God. You know, we're not going to just stand for this. We're going to go and get our costumes on and go fight her because we're heroes. Yada yada. Obviously, not one's thinking about the idea that people will question. Wait, what? All of the outsiders are on this cruise ship.
Yeah,
like you're already here. That's only like maybe like what, a few hundred people to sort of like figure out who you are. That's quite a narrow list of people to check. But hey,
that's very funny.
I complain.
I love the 80s.
Yeah. Looker wakes up in like a locked room, seemingly in some kind of submarine, because she opens the door and water starts rushing in, and she's all cocky thinking, well, I'll use my Looker powers to get out, and then she opens the door and water starts flooding the room, and she's like, oh no, I'll shut that. Maybe I'm actually not as useful here as I thought I was. So she's there, out of commission for the minute, and the outsiders confront Marine Marauder and go after her, and Geoforce gets eaten by a whale. A big whale just comes up and swallows him whole. So he's like in a whale. Yeah, he's dealing with that. Sharks are trying to chomp at Halo, who's flying above the water. Black Lightning's getting basically there's like big sharks or big fish being tossed at Black Lightning who have got bombs in their mouths, right? Like torpedoes in their mouths, and Black Lightning's trying to zap them and dodge the explosives. So that's fun.
Just pull a Sheriff Brody and hit the bombs with lightning.
A giant octopus is like grabbing people off the deck, and Katana's like cutting off the tentacles with her sword. So I want to make clear here,
Sushi.
I'm loving the ridiculousness of this plot. Like, I'm loving all the ocean creatures. I'm loving tentacles getting cut off and the weird jealousy that's happening, and just how much Marine Marauder got under Looker's skin. Enjoying all of that, for the record.
The stuff you're describing is what it sounds like when like a kid is telling you their idea for a comic book. Yeah. He's like, there's a lady, she can talk to fish, and she throws fish that have bombs in their mouth at Black Lightning, and then Katana fights an octopus, but she cuts off all the arms because she has a sword. And you're just like, this is kind of sometimes what comics should be.
Yeah, and then there's a great page where the whale sort of jumps up out of the water, and then it looks very distressed as you get like a bunch of like whack, thump, and thud sound effects as there's like little lumps appearing from inside the whale, and then out comes flying Geoforce, who's punched his way out of the whale. And it's like, okay, way to get this character. Although Halo does point out that Geoforce stinks to heavens because he was inside the whale. So basically at this point, Marine Marauder's like, you know what? I realize that I'm kind of maybe getting overwhelmed here. Maybe I can't defeat this entire team. I'm going to put on my breather and ride my dolphin into the water down to my secret underwater lair. And she gets down there. And yeah, she basically has like one of her octopus or whatever it is, like have their tentacle wrapped around Looker so she can't do anything. And Looker's like, wait, why were you harassing me aboard the ship? Why have you got out for me? And she's just like, I had to prove I was better than you. And she's like, yeah, of course, I'm extremely competitive. I've been that way my whole life. And we get like flashbacks to her, like, she's got like her head, it's almost like a Doc Brown style, like, you know, sci-fi helmet she's got on, with all the cables and stuff, and the cables are just going into like a fish tank. And she's like, yeah, I trained myself to communicate with sea life, and so on and so on. And it's like 2 panels, but they made me laugh because it was such a ridiculous visual. That's
so funny. So she's not Atlantean, so she doesn't talk to fish in the way that Aquaman does.
No, she did it with signs.
Like the
yeah. Did it with signs, and that's why she has some form of telepathy, although it's not as strong as Looker's. She could block Looker's telepathy, but she can't read other people's minds. Only like control sea life. But she wants to have that ability, so she grabs Looker and says, I want to know how you got your powers. How did you get your telepathy? And if I don't get it, you know, I'll kill you. And she's like, well, if you can read my mind, you can already know the answer that I'm not going to tell you. And she tries to get away, but the tentacle grabs her, and she like sort of pins her down, and we see like this like effect of like the telepathic waves hitting Looker in the head. So it's a whole thing. The rest of the crew though are on the ship, and they're like, oh, where's Looker? We can't find her anywhere, and we're still surrounded by whales. We got to do something about this. So yeah, so basically it's like, okay, we're going to have to like try something. So they agree to send in Halo and Metamorpho. So Metamorpho turns into like an oxygen bubble that surrounds Halo so she can breathe, and they go down into the water and look around. They find the secret base that the Marine Marauders get down there, and they find Looker passed out on the floor. But Marine Marauder shows up outside the ship, challenges the outsiders. Looker looks like she's like, you know, drilling from the mouth, and her eyes are all glazed over, like the telepathy's like messing with her or something like that. Like she's like, I don't know if she's like in a coma per se, but certainly she's in some sort of trance. And then the big cliffhanger at the end of the issue, as this is all going down, is a giant octopus / squid thing is attacking the underwater structure. So now Halo and Metamorpho are in trouble as well, as Marauders is attacking the ship up above and challenging what's left. So she's basically separated the team, or she's got lucky enough that the team have kind of separated in half. So maybe she can take on half of them. with her powers. So, and maybe she has gotten some extra powers from Looker. It's tough to tell, but it looks like Looker's at least in a bad way. Maybe Looker won't be so vain after this arc. Maybe this will teach her a lesson about being so self-absorbed, because that's what she's been a lot in these last few issues for sure. I will say this had a guest artist on it, and I don't think the art was as strong as it has been typically. It's not bad by any means, but it definitely feels a little bit messier and a little bit sketchier than I feel like the art usually is here, where normally I tend to quite like a lot of the facial expressions. I tend to think that's really, really strong. Here it's still good in places. Like whenever Looker's like jealous or mad that she's been upstaged, that stuff looks pretty good actually. But it's just occasionally there's a lot of faces that feel a lot more squiggly, feel a lot less defined, like they're almost like they've been drawn in a rush kind of thing compared to normal. So I didn't think the art was as good. Not bad by any stretch, but not as good as the usual stuff. So just worth mentioning there. I had a lot of fun with this issue, though. I think all the Marine stuff's fun. I think the Looker stuff being jealous is entertaining. It feels like everyone gets like a fun moment with some sort of fish-type action, whether it's a whale, a shark, or a fish with a bomb in its mouth. There's entertaining moments to be had. So, solid 8 out of 10. And I thought this was going to be like a one-shot story, so I was actually very pleased when it got to the end and it was only like at least half of a two-parter. I'm like, yes, we at least get a second cruise ship episode or issue. I'm excited about that. So that is Adventures of the Outsiders, issue 37. Had a good time. Wasn't quite, Hitler cloning a test tube levels of crazy, but it was still pretty crazy in a fun way all the same. Yeah. So, cool stuff. All right, well, that will take us on to the final stuff of the episode, except for the fact that I think that some news broke, so we might do a little extra news section after this, but we'll do the wrap-up stuff first, where we pick our favourite stuff of the week, favorite panel/moment of the week, favourite cover, favourite art, and of course, top 5 books. So, Matt, what is your panel/moment of the week?
Oh, man, so trying to pull from some of them, and there's a lot in Brutal Dark that I liked. When the dude turns into the big Hephaestus looking guy, starts swinging that hammer with one hand, that was pretty cool. Absolute Wonder Woman, anything with Cheetah, but I feel like that makes me a self-parody, and we didn't even really get to see Cheetah, we just saw kind of the transformation. So for me, it's going to be a moment more than just a panel, and it's going to be when in Absolute Superman, when Lois says it, Kal-El gave her a list, right? And these are like the last will and testament of Superman. It's essentially to go check on these people that he cares about. And it's this big act of compassion, that is countered by all the action, crazy stuff that's going on in the issue. So that's mine.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a lazy, easy choice, but it might just be the entire action sequence in the sky in Brutal Dark. Yeah. I mean, that's an obvious choice.
Pretty good.
I could also go with I could go with the basically any of the stuff on the moon, really, from Absolute Superman. Yeah, I do like the Zod reveal at the end of Action Comics as well. That's a
good one too.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Brutal Dark. I'll be more specific though. I'll go with the moment where the automaton jumps onto the Empire State Building and then jumps off of it, because it gives it this little pause in the action where you get to like really get a sense of the scope of where you are, and then it picks back up again. And I think that's a really cool little breather for spectacle's sake. So I'll say that. Speaking of that, cover wise, we have a really cool main cover for Brutal Dark with the Zeppelin up in the sky over the top of the buildings. Yeah. That's really nice. I like the Green Lantern main cover as well, which is basically Kyle being mad, typing at the internet as Odyssey's over his shoulder, just kind of being frantic. There's a cool Carmine Domenico cover for Detective Comics with the trio of characters like diving through the like off a building. Just looks really cool. But my pick is probably going to be the Faria variant for Absolute Wonder Woman, which is just her standing against the darkness, and there's just a lot of blood on her big blade. It's really simple but really cool.
Standing in a pool of blood.
And a
as
pool of
well.
blood, yeah. What be you for cover?
That's pretty good. All right, so that was going to be one I mentioned. Green Lantern has a variant by Yasmin Putri that's got Odyssey, Kyle, and a character that's no longer in this book, Connor Kent, looking like up in space, going on an adventure. Looks really cool. Brutal Dark has a variant that is Ezra in the plane with like an army of those automatons behind him. That looks really cool. Looks again something from Pulp cover. But my cover of the week is an Action Comics variant by David Talaski, and it's got Lois surrounded by like Daily Planet, like newspapers, flying through the air, and it's a Superman smashes space invaders. Just a great image. Like again, it is phone wallpaper quality, and that's my pick.
Cool. That is our art of the week, Matt. What you got for that?
All right, so this is tough because I think Absolute Superman is up there. Guidry for the Flash is also, and then I also have Brutal Dark because that is, and I would say that out of all of these, the one that is most reliant on the art is Brutal Dark because it's doing so much of the heavy lifting. So that's what I'm going to give it to. Is Peril of Brutal Dark.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's the pick. Like Absolute Wonder Woman didn't have its usual artist. Rafa Sandoval was great in Absolute Superman. Yep. Janin was very good on Detective. Yes. Action's like 4 different artists, so it's kind of hard to pick that. Yeah, I think it has to be Brutal Dark. Yeah, I don't think anything else is really competing in the same league. So, yeah, easy pick for that. And then top 5 books. Why don't you go?
All right, so 1's going to be Absolute Superman. 2 is Brutal Dark. 3 is The Flash. 4 is Tech. And 5 is Absolute Wonder Woman.
All right. For me, number 1 is Brutal Dark. Number 2 is Absolute Superman. 3 is The Flash. Yeah, 4 is Detective Comics. And then 5 is... we'll go with Absolute Wonder Woman for number 5. Yeah, that feels good. All right, cool. So, yeah, I'll tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics. Which is not a lot, to be fair, because it's week 5. But nope. Just to remind you once again, we will have a full episode next week because we will be doing all of last week's books, which we missed on the week off. So it'll be a full week for us regardless. And Leah Comic Geeks is refusing to load, so I can't tell you what's coming next week.
So I have, for next week, we have the Detective Comics 2026 Annual number 1.
Yep.
Superman 2026 Annual Year 1000. Batman Superman World's Finest 2026 Annual. Justice League Night Vision Special number 1. DC's Hot Girl Summer. And then Justice League of America 200 Facsimile. And then all the books that came out last week.
That sounds like week 5 for sure. Yeah, I mean... Look, World's Finest being a Jonathan Kent and Alfred story sounds appealing enough, but I still doubt I'm going to read that because we dropped that book a while ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll check out Detective and maybe Superman out of the 2.
That said, I'm willing to make a trade of Detective because Lobo is featured on the cover. So I might rather read The World's Finest 2026.
That's upsetting. Look, the main purpose of next week is all last week's books. These annuals are all, all optional. They're all up in the air.
I guess it'll be choose your own adventure. We'll see what we chose to read when we come in. Because I'm keeping it close to the vest. I feel like Pete's going to keep it close to the vest.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Because I don't think you're reading the Superman one, are you?
I don't want to right now.
Happen in year 1000?
Yeah. Guest starring Lobo. I mean, it's still Tom Taylor, so... I don't know.
Yeah, but it's Lobo.
I know it's Lobo. There's some Nicholas Scott art.
But it's Lobo.
I know. I know. All right. Well, we'll find out. Come next time. Yeah. So okay. So just before we go, there has been some news that the Absolute panel apparently has been on. Solicits have actually been released. We have already been recording though for 3 hours and 15 minutes. So those are waiting until next week, guys. We'll do them for next week's episode.
That answers my question.
Yeah. Because I haven't got another 40 minutes in me today. That's too much.
All right.
But it does look like an Absolute Black Canary has been announced. One shot, which is weird because Absolute Green Arrow is already Absolute Black Canary, frankly. Like it is.
Yes.
That's what that book is. It's Absolute Black Canary. So
I'm curious to see, and it's the same creative team. So I'm curious to see why that was the news.
I mean,
why is it getting a one shot?
It's basically a bonus issue, right? Of that book is effectively how I'm looking at it.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah. They've announced.
We also have Absolute Cyborg coming down the line in Absolute Flash. That was a big announcement.
Oh well, I was only going to announce new books. I wasn't really concerned about like stuff that's showing up in the other books. They've announced Scott Snyder and Sanford Green are doing Darkseid versus the World, apparently, which is an all-in one-shot, which is apparently it's going to set up everything to come for the DC universe and the Absolute universe in 2027. So. Which I guess makes sense because since obviously Darkseid's connected to the Absolute universe, so that's a mainline DC like leading to big stuff coming kind of stuff. They're showing off like issues 25 of a few different things. They did announce an Absolute Batman Beyond Arkham special as well. So that's a whale thing to do a Beyond or do an Absolute of as Batman Beyond. So. Yeah, interesting. So, there's a lot of stuff just kind of filtering out right now. Hard to keep track of it all. I'm sure a bunch of this is in the solicits, which we'll go through properly next week, but just worth mentioning here since a lot of this stuff is trickling out as we're recording. I'm not even sure if that's the last panel. It probably is, but I'm not sure if it is. So we'll see. Oh, there's a new Superman book as well. Hold on a second. No, it's a new Steel book. Sorry, it's a new Steel book.
Yep. By Morgan Hampton.
Yeah, Morgan Hampton's doing a new Steel ongoing series. Okay. I mean, like I hope for the best. I feel like every time they try and do an ongoing Steel book, it lasts 6, maybe 12 issues at best, and it just sort of withers away and goes nowhere. But hopefully, they'll do their best here. So that's cool. There's a lot of stuff trickling out. A lot of it, I assume, will be in the solicits next week, so we'll have a look at it properly then. But we're just acknowledging it here at the end because, stuff's happening. So we will check out solicits next week properly, as well as all of last week's books. So it'll probably still be a beefy episode next week, actually. That is the show. That is us. So thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. You can, of course, support everything over at Patreon. Get access to the ongoing classic books that we review for Patreon. We've been doing Swamp Thing by Alan Moore. We just recorded the 3rd issue of that, so that'll be up soonish. The 1st issue of Gotham Central went up this past week. So those are the 2 ongoing books on there right now. We'd already done and finished Batgirl Year 1, so that's all up there if you want to go check out that. But you get to the show a little bit early as well. Thanks to everyone who does already support us. It really does make the show possible. But that is us. So thank you once again for joining. We do appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.